Hi, can I welcome you to the Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire LEP Vision 20 conference. I'm really excited to be hosting these next 2 days. My name's Ashley Cooper, and I'm joined in the studio, and my right-hand man, I think, for the next 2 days, Alan Rogers, Chair of the LEP. Alan, very warm welcome to you. And also in the studio with me is Hannah Alt. Warm welcome to you as well. Just a few things to say as we begin. We hope you're relaxed, we hope you've got a coffee at hand, and we hope you're ready for what is going to be an inspiring, challenging 2 days. The LEP brings together partners to create the conditions for growth. Growth is our agenda over these next few days. One of the themes we've been kind of running with and the phrases we've been playing with here in the studio is, this conference is about helping you to thrive, not just survive in this context in which we find ourselves. And so the LEP brings together partners to create conditions for growth, to push the growth agenda, to support your business, and give you all kinds of advice, and help you find partners that can support you where you are. And so this conference is not like any other. This year it's a rallying call to everyone to grasp the opportunities of the future and for businesses to access all the help that's around. And we're going to bring in partners over these next few days that will be able to help you, support you, point you in the right direction, find funding, and help you to push forward and grow. The next 2 days is designed to inspire. And so we're bringing together not just partners, but we're bringing together some really inspirational people. We've got Jenny Campbell with us today. That's going to be really exciting to hear how she has grown and to hear her story. She's going to start at the beginning and tell us how she ends up on Dragon's Den. That's going to be amazing. All our sessions are interactive, so you can ask questions of everyone that we bring into the studio over these next 2 days. You can do that by tweeting. If you tweet the hashtag that's behind me here, hashtag SSLEPVision20, then you can put your questions in that way, or via the app as well. If you make sure you get your questions, we will ask them of the people that are with us. This conference is about you, your needs, your business, how to thrive. Even though we may be moving into the highest COVID tier, and it's tough for all of us, but the LEP wants you to know you're not alone. We're together, we're partners, we're all in this. And we want to share the stories, we want to share the good news, we want to share the positive things, and we want to help you to grow. So let's first of all turn to Alan. Alan, just introduce yourself in case people don't know who you are. I'm sure they do know who you are, but just in case there's one person out there that doesn't know who you are, let us know.
Yeah, thanks.
Who is Alan Rogers?
Yeah, thanks, Ash. So I'm Alan. I'm chairman of the Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire Local Enterprise Partnership. I've been involved with the partnership for almost 3 years now. I started off as a board member, then vice chair, and now chair. And I'm also a local business person, so I'm co-founder and run a business with my best friend Richard, which is a technology business based in Stafford, so locally. And we grew our business here from scratch, and we're proud to be headquartered here. So hopefully I know quite a lot about what it is to be a real-life business person, what it's like to build a business here. But I've also, in the last 3 years, started to understand the support and the conditions that are needed to support businesses economically and drive economic growth. So I'm hoping I can give people kind of both sides of the coin, which I think will really help.
That's amazing. Thanks, Alan. You're with me for the full 2 days, and
I am
you're my right-hand man, and you're the person in the know, so if I can't answer anything, I'm handing it straight to you. That's great. So,
we both hope you're right.
Yeah, don't go anywhere. Stay there. Hannah, you're also with me in the studio. Just introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your story.
Hi, I'm Hannah Alt. So I'm a director of a local company called Valentine Clays. We manufacture clay and distribute throughout the world. So I'm very passionate about local and businesses. I'm also proud to be on the board of the LEP, hence why I'm sitting here today. And I'm also the chair for Growing Business Subgroup and also for the Growth Hub.
That's great. We'll be hearing about that subgroup in just a few moments' time as we bring the different subgroup leaders together. Alan, just tell me a little bit about what you're excited about for these next 2 days. What are you hoping will happen as we gather together?
Well, I'm hoping that people get to see, during the COVID crisis and for the last few years, we've been really, really busy in the LEP. So the LEP the key point is the last word, it's a partnership. So the LEP is a role we convene and we bring people together. And the partnership's been really, really busy for the last 12 months and all the way through COVID. And I think it'd be really exciting for people to see what we've been getting up to across the whole partnerships. You'll hear across county councils, city councils, lots of various partners, our universities. We've been really busy thinking about what we think the economy needs, reacting to the pressures of COVID, and then continue to build those long-term stories and those long-term visions about how we change things. So I'm really excited to share all of that in one place, in 2 bite-sized chunks for 2.5 hours each day, and you'll be able to kind of understand everything that's been going. So this is the culmination of 12, 18 months worth of work across hundreds and hundreds of people that have been bringing together these visions and the direction that we want to take the area in.
That's amazing. Don't worry about missing anything over the next 2 days, because everything's going to be recorded. You will be able to catch up on everything that happens in the next 2 days. So there'll be lots of input, lots to think about, lots to challenge you. And don't worry if you think, oh, I want to watch that again, or I need to go back to that, because you'll be able to do that after these 2 days. We want you to stay with us. We want you to engage with us, and we want you to help us to ask questions of our guests. And your questions, we want your questions to feed and to generate our conversation, because we want to make sure that what happens here actually impacts you where you are in your locality and your business. We don't want to just have 2 days of conversation that doesn't have any impact. We want everything we do here to impact your local business. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. And I think it's important, you know, the way we run the LEP is it's about being open and transparent. We engage with all partners and we treat everybody equally. And today's we're engaging with businesses and the wider partnership. We want to have the same relationship with business too. You know, if you want to talk to us, we're here. You'll see lots of things we talk about today. It's a genuine offer for you to get involved, for you to have your say, for you to influence us. So the spirit of the conference is, you know, use the hashtag, tweet us. You can go and find people like myself, people like Hannah, come direct, use the hashtag, do whatever you want. But we'll find a way to have that conversation with you. Yeah. And I say this is the beginning of a meaningful conversation that we want to have with everybody.
And the key word is partnership.
Absolutely.
We're all in this together, whether we're a small business or a large business. We're in this together, and we want, whether you're small, medium or large business, we want you to grow and push forward and use that word thrive. Hannah, what are your hopes for the next 2 days? What are you hoping you might hear or might
to get through the panel session?
To get through the panel session, yes, absolutely.
Kind of picking up on what Alan said, I mean, I'm a local business person, so I completely understand how difficult it is sometimes, especially at the moment as we're going through a COVID crisis. And I think what I hope is that all this SMEs out there will see that there is support, there are, you know, great partners and organisations that can help people. Not like you said, not just to survive, but it's about thriving, it's about growth, it's about, we want people to feel supportive and, you know, coming to any of us as board members, hopefully we can help people to feel that. So that's what I hope to do.
That's great. It has been a tough 2020 for business. There's no doubt that this year, that hopefully we're coming to the end of and we can begin to see light at the end of a tunnel, has been tough.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true. And we've done a lot of work across the partnership to support redundancy. We've got a triage service. I chair our weekly COVID task force. So we are absolutely looking to help businesses and people who may be struggling at this time. But I think it's also, and it comes back to our point about inspiring people, is, you know, contrary to what you would believe, but if you speak to any entrepreneur, they'll tell you the best time to start a business is in a recession, because that's when the market is at its, there's lots of change going on. If you can find your niche, then that's the time to go. And I think, again, today is about building confidence as much as anything else. The LEP absolutely is working across the whole partnership to provide that safety net and support people, but we're also there to help people stick their jet boosters on and take a big chance and go for it. And a lot of the sessions, in particular, we hear from Jenny later, it's about building confidence, about encouraging people to be bold, encouraging people to bet in themselves and get on with it. The £5,000 investment I made in building the business with Richard that we both took out 15 years ago, we've been paid back many times over that. And we left our jobs, we took out a credit card, and we grew a business from nothing. And we're not unique, we're not special, may have been a little bit ambitious at the time, but it's something that anybody can do. And I really want to inspire as many people as possible to bet yourself and go for it.
Yeah, it's about having that confidence, isn't it? It's a time of transition and change, and we've got to adapt. We've got to look for the new things as well, and all of that.
But
it is an opportunity, absolutely.
And I think communication is really important. We need businesses to talk to us, to communicate what support do they need, what is it that the LEP can help to provide. And I think that's quite key over the next 2 days as well.
So hopefully over these 2 days you'll hear lots about the LEP, you'll hear how the LEP can support you, how you can engage with the LEP, how you can contact the LEP, what resources are available to you as a small business that will help you and a medium business to help you to grow and to push forward and to thrive. So we're excited about all that's going to happen over these next 2 days. So do please contact us. Make sure your questions are in for all the different panelists and guests we've got. If you've got a question, feed it in. Send it to the tweet at hashtag Sslep Vision 20 or use the app, and we'd love to get those questions in so we can start engaging with you. This short VT will help you to understand how to connect with us. We're going to begin by having a conversation about the local industrial strategy, I think, Alan. So we've got some more guests to join us. Hannah's obviously staying in the studio with us, but we're joined by Abby Brown, who's the leader of Stoke-on-Trent City Council, and Liz Barnes from Staffordshire University, the Vice-Chancellor, and from Trevor Macmillan, the Vice-Chancellor of Keele University. So good morning, no, good afternoon. We're in the afternoon now. Afternoon to all of you. So there are 5 of you in the studio with us. Alan, why don't you introduce these guys and where they kind of fit into the strategy?
Yes, so first of all, these are fellow board members, and I'm really proud that they've joined the board, but also the role that they play in running the institutions they run locally. So, again, I think this shows you the kind of level people we have on the LEP, the engagement we have, and also the amount of traction we're therefore able to drive locally, which is really important. If I kind of give you just an introduction to the industrial strategy and a bit about the LEP,
that'd be great.
Now I can introduce the board members. So. In 2018, back in 2017, the government published its National Industrial Strategy. And then in 2018, we were given the task to think about what a local industrial strategy might be. And the role of the LEP is really to develop that strategy and then to implement it locally. And we did a lot of work around developing a data set, making sure that the LEP's ambition to be strategy-led and data-driven is realised, and we very much are in that position now. And we built out that work, we built out a data set, we understand our economy in detail. And then what we did was we started to build those into some strategic building blocks. And having done that, we set on 4 foundational pillars for how we want to build our economy here. So they are future workforce, that's thinking about skills. They are growing business, and that's how we support businesses to grow. They're about place and how we create the places which make this the best place to live, work, learn and do business. And then we also think about innovation and how we can use that to build our businesses and build our economy. And having done that, we now have our subgroups. So the LEP is focused around strategy, governance and delivery. And in the strategy pillar, we have our 4 subgroups, and they're chaired by these fantastic people around me.
That's great. So I'll introduce each one of them and just help us understand the different subgroups that they represent and their areas of work. That'd be great.
Yeah, should we go speak to each of them individually?
That's
so
fine.
we start off with Trevor. So Trevor chairs our innovation subgroup. So he's the Vice-Chancellor of Keele University, but introduce yourself, Trevor.
Hi, yes, as you say, I'm Trevor Macmillan, Vice-Chancellor at Keele, been in that role for 5 years and on and off the LEP board for most of that time. Had a long-held interest in, first of all, how universities make sure they have an impact on their local economy, but also at a national level, a role in thinking about how universities in general relate better to business to make sure that we get a mutual benefit across both sectors.
Thanks. And then in terms of the pillar you've been running in terms of our industrial strategy, so in terms of innovation, do you want to just talk us through what the initial ideas have been and how that group's going?
Sure. First of all, I should say it's been a great pleasure to chair an excellent group of people on the innovation subgroup. They've all been from the business sector, which is important, and I'd certainly like to take this opportunity to thank them for the time and the very valuable insights. As one of the 4 core policies in the local implementation plan, innovation, which has, as we'll all recognise, been historically really embedded in Stoke and Staffordshire, literally for centuries, it's going to be critical to this survive and thrive agenda. We could define innovation in a number of different ways, but there are 2 core elements. The first is around research and development, which is fundamentally around inventing things and processes that, when implemented, make a real difference to the things our businesses do and make as well as doing them efficiently and as effectively as possible. But also, secondly, it's about having adaptive businesses that can keep up to date with advanced technologies and the way they are applied, so that we are both competitive but also leading in productivity within the region. And I'm sure the last few months have emphasised that last point to us, even if only in the adoption of communication technologies that have absolutely dominated our working practices during the pandemic. It's important to recognise that it's not just the pandemic that we're having to adapt to at the moment. There's clearly the economic challenges that are both here and going to get, I think, a bit worse for a while. And also, our group are very keen on recognising that we cannot and must not forget about the climate emergency. Now, how we actually enhance innovation in the region is not straightforward. It won't be a quick fix. And it will interface very much with things that you'll hear about from Liz and Abby and Hannah. But there are many opportunities to move forward, not least because enhancing innovation is very clear and it's an important part of this government's plans for the country overall, but also specifically around the levelling up agenda, which I think we all hope that will benefit from in this part of the world. So one of the key messages, I think, on the basis of a number of different ways that we could go forward, is reiterating what Alan said earlier, that it's important that you tell us what you think will help. Are you a big company that has a research and development arm that could provide insight to others, but also benefit from collaboration with other sectors or indeed within your supply chain? Are you a small company with some of those bright ideas, but you need the money and support to help you develop them and get established? Or even someone that hasn't got a company yet and you want to get through that some of those early steps. Through the LEP discussions, we do aim to enhance the exchange and skills in various ways through networks, through training, support. We do believe there should be ways that facilities can be provided to help and develop and test new ideas. And also there should be funds available to support various elements of the pathway, including, for example, access to venture capital funds if that's what's needed. This agenda will also be part of the implementation of some fundamental enablers that I think we need to develop across the county, including being better connected through better digital and 5G connectivity, by being better adapted to zero carbon energy future, which will not only address a clear societal need, but it will make us more sustainable as businesses and organisations into the future. But also by developing an ambitious and innovative mindset in the citizens of Staffordshire. And by doing that, we'll support a workforce that really can perform strongly and adapt to the ever-changing environment that will be a feature of society from now on. Some of this the LEP will be able to do itself, but some of it is already being done by existing structures and organisations such as the Chamber of Commerce, the British Innovation Centre, and indeed the two universities. But we must also be outward looking and utilise opportunities outside the region and looking very much at national initiatives, but also recognise our role within the Midlands and the Midlands engine, which is gradually emerging as a key conduit for a lot of this. And one of the big roles for the LEP will be an important facilitator in allowing people within the region to actually link into those broader initiatives. So, Alan, I do hope this gives you a flavour for certainly the ambition and some of the things that are in train. As I said, what's important today, as you said earlier, is that the people who are listening to this really do talk to us and let us know what they think would be the best things for their businesses, so that we can focus our efforts in the most productive directions.
Thanks ever so much for that, Trevor.
Thank you. And the others, Alan?
Yeah, so thanks a lot for that, Trevor. And as I say, this is about having a genuine conversation with people. Get in touch with the LEP if you want to be on one of the subgroups. We want you to be engaged. But hopefully you can start to see from Trevor the kind of ambition we have to really change things as well. So I move on to Liz next from Staffordshire University. We'll go from one university to the other. So hi, nice to see you, Liz.
Hi, good afternoon, Alan, Hannah.
And just before we get started, so Liz, you also, as well as chairing our Future Workforce group, you also chair the Skills Advisory Panel in the LEP as well. And I know you pulled together I almost forget it was then, a poll, a series of questions. So they should be on screen shortly, but if you can fill those in during today, then that'll give us a really interesting data set to go and work with. Did you want to bring us up to speed on that, Liz?
Yes, thank you. Usually the survey that's conducted is around the skills gaps, but what's come through both the skills advisory panel and the future workforce is the importance of careers advice. And that isn't particularly now really pertinent, not just for young people, but also for adults who need to find their way back into work. And so this time what we want to do with our survey is have a look at that relationship between education providers and training providers with the workplace, and looking at how placements can help in this and work experience. And it's particularly pertinent as we've got the Kickstart scheme that government are offering currently and other restart schemes. But also we've got emerging the T-levels. One of our colleges and one of our schools is starting off with the digital T-levels in the near future. And they're going to require those participating in the T-levels to do 40 hours work placements. And then also we've got apprenticeships, of course, and many of our employers offer apprenticeships. But the feedback we're getting is about, do we understand enough of what's required? Do we offer the best possible placements we can? Do young people in school really understand the kind of skills that you need to go into different professions? So we want to use this survey to begin to understand more about the relationship between our education providers and employers and how we can improve that and really help the pathway and progression into work across the county.
Thanks for that. And then, brilliant, thanks for that. And in terms of the future workforce, do you want to talk us through the work you've been doing, the vision that you've been creating with the group?
Yeah, thank you. And just to echo Trevor, thanks to all those that participate. We have colleges, schools, local authorities, the Chamber of Commerce and private business involved in these discussions. What we want to be able to offer across Staffordshire, in line with the local industrial strategy, is the opportunity for satisfying work and a pipeline of opportunity for all of our population. And this is building on individual skill sets and aspirations. We hear lots in the media about low value job, low skills job. Actually, all jobs are important. And what's really important is that people get satisfaction from their work, that they feel that they've got opportunity going forward. And so within the future workforce, there's a range of strands that we're looking at. Emerging skills gaps has always been pertinent to what we do, looking at where our local industrial strategy is focused and the kind of jobs that are emerging and how we align the skills being offered within the universities and within colleges with the needs of the local community and the jobs available. But again, particularly today for COVID, but going forward it'll be equally as important. We need to be able to upskill, to reskill and multi-skill our current workforce. And it's making sure that we can offer across our education and training providers in the county, flexible provision and continuous pathways. And we also need to be looking at how we prepare for those jobs of the future, the jobs that don't exist today. Of course, we don't know what they are, but working with employers, we can begin to have those conversations. And particularly, Trevor made reference to 5G. Digital is going to cut across every area of work, and those digital skills are really important. And what we want the focus to be on is you can start anywhere in work and go anywhere. And Alan, you told your story about how you started in your business. Many of us start in a role where we could never foresee where we actually end up. And this is around how we help this workforce to grow. And as previously mentioned with the Skills Advisory Panel, we talk about how we build those relationships with employers and help the smooth transition into work and match the skills that are required by local industry and employers. And folks in the government now are talking about small bites of learning and adults having a passport to lifelong learning, being able to access learning as they go through their careers, because our days at school never really end through life. They will help us to progress in our work. And so it's about building this provision, understanding current and future employer demand. So we really need this partnership with businesses to understand the kind of gaps you've got within your workforce, the gaps that you think may emerge, or for us to help in thinking about how you might pivot your business, particularly in the kind of stresses and challenges that we're facing today. And also what we'd like to do is offer everybody the opportunity to increase their income, to be able to grow their earnings as they begin as well to fulfill their ambitions in their work. So hopefully that gives a flavour of what the future workforce are working on. Thanks, Alan.
Thanks ever so much for that, Liz. And I think it's really important, let's not make bones about it. We want the residents, the people who work here to earn more. And that's about finding the right kinds of industries with the right kind of jobs. But as you said, it's about satisfying work. If you don't want to earn more, then that's okay if you're satisfied, but we want you to be happy in the work you're doing as well. And I think it's really, again, a message I want to come across today is that the LEP has got a very progressive vision. We're looking for things to be better for people. And, we're not being over-prescriptive, but we are trying to be leading from the front.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, job satisfaction is not all about the income. It's about doing the things that make us happy individually, that use our skill sets, where we can build on our experience. And actually, I look at some of our graduates and what they want to do is give back, want to volunteer. One of our graduates this year was in his 70s. I don't think he was looking for his next job. He was going out to do more in society and add value. And it adds his own confidence and satisfaction.
Absolutely. And thanks ever so much for that, Liz. I've moved over to Hannah now. So nice to do one in real life.
I know, yeah.
The only board member
these
who's
days.
here. So we maintain our distancing as we're meant to. So Hannah, you're chairing our growing business group. Did you want to talk to us a little bit about what you've been doing in the group and what the groups are trying to achieve?
Yeah, I'm a fairly new member to the board, really, and one of the reasons that I joined the LEP is because I wanted to try and help businesses locally and to make a difference. So that's why I put my hand up and said I'll chair the group. And I've been really fortunate that on my subgroup I've had some great businesses that have been giving us lots of input in terms of what they feel is needed, not just throughout Stoke-on-Trent and the north of Staffordshire, but the south as well. So we've got businesses on that subgroup from across the county. So it's really important to get everyone's view to try and help. The main key really with growing business is it's all about accelerating business evolution. So it's all about growth. It's not just sustaining. It's about how can we help businesses out there to grow. And to do that, we've kind of come up with a few key kind of themes that we feel will help. One of the predominant conversations was around business space, accommodation, making sure, we spent an awful lot of time in our group talking about that, because from a growth point of view, for businesses to be able to grow, that is quite important. We need to have the right kind of business space or office space or whatever that is. And obviously that's all completely changing now because of COVID. So we're looking at that more and more. Innovative startups is a big thing, a big theme that came out from our discussions, that, how can we support people out there and businesses out there that are starting up. I think that's even more so now. People during COVID are looking more at starting up their own businesses because they're probably now in a position where they need to. So we looked around that, and we looked at the partners, working with partners out there such as the Growth Hub to help in terms of that. Evolving businesses is another key theme that we've looked at. So where that support comes from to help businesses to grow. The main people that will deliver that is the Chamber of Commerce and the Growth Hub, so they're very key in giving that support. So we were looking at, well, what can they be doing to help? So there were loads of conversations around that. So we've been looking at maturity models that will help businesses, which I'm quite excited about because I think that's going to have a huge benefit to businesses. Looking at investment, looking at through digital technology, zero carbon solutions is massive for my industry, the ceramic industry. That's huge right now. We're looking at that, and that's really important. Staffordshire for Business is another big thing. It's about how do we market Staffordshire? How do we encourage more businesses to come into and come and stay here in Staffordshire? So very much about inward investment campaigns, how we can work with the inward investment team. Lots of conversations kind of around that. Improving I suppose, how we market. This is a great place to live, work, and do business. That's one of our key slogans as Sslep now, that let's come out of the subgroups. And the big government ask for my group is we're looking for about 51 million to be able to deliver this. So that's kind of what my group have been discussing. Hope that helps.
Excellent. And in terms of, I think the key point I'll come back to is about business evolution. I think that's more relevant now than ever. So
Definitely.
when we thought about it, we weren't necessarily in the middle of a global pandemic. But in terms of evolution, it's about businesses changing every day. If you're a small business, then you may be adapting to the market. If you're a growing business, then you're going from having less structure, you're then having formal HR, formal finance departments. So evolution is happening in many ways, isn't it? In terms of as you scale your business, it changes shape or you adapt to the market.
I think you're right. I think there's a lot more restructuring taking place. I think businesses are having an opportunity now to look within themselves, because we've got to survive, but also to grow. I mean, for example, my business, we're looking at not just surviving, we're growing. We're in a kind of 3-year expansion plan at the moment. We're trying to build a factory right now. So in these times, it's like looking at how can we still achieve those goals, but keep the company thriving as well.
Yeah, and you've talked as well about, on your own journey, you're having to make capital investments as you build a new factory, but also you're having to think about, digital, how you put in a bit better processes and systems as you grow. So everyone's evolving all of the time, aren't they?
Exactly, yeah. And that's what I would say my subgroup is about. And that's why I encourage people out there, communicate with the Sslep. It would be great if you want to come on my subgroup and just give me your voice and give me your opinions and help us to put the support out there that businesses need right now.
Okay, and say, as you said, the most successful businesses are always adapting and changing.
Yes.
And if I go over to, certainly not last but certainly not least, over to Abby, who chairs our Placer group. So did you want to introduce yourself first, Abby?
Yeah, sure. I'm Councillor Abby Brown. I'm the leader of Stoke-on-Trent City Council. I've been a councillor for 10 years and I became Deputy Leader of the City Council in 2015 and the leader in May last year. So I've sat on Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire LEP since 2015, which I find hard to believe makes me probably one of the longest serving board members at the moment. I've been the lead member for the Ceramic Valley Enterprise Zone since about 2015 and I chair the board and I'm really pleased to be the chair of the Place subgroup.
Thanks ever so much, Abby. And again, we work very closely. So there's a child subgroup of Place called Localities, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But did you want to talk to us about what we've been doing in the Place group and kind of the ideas and the vision you're pulling together?
Yeah, sure. So as Hannah says, the strapline of the LEP, the best place to live, learn, work and do business, really is pulled together by the essence of what place is, which is a kind of very public sector type word, isn't it? But in effect, it's everything. It's the houses we live in, the infrastructure we travel on, the things we do in our spare time, and everything around us. And local authorities would, I guess, say that we are the leaders of place. We're the glue that holds it all together. And Stoke-on-Trent City Council is a £500 million business that delivers over 700 services that touch the lives of every resident of this city every day. So for me, it's really important that myself, my colleague, Alan White, who is the leader of Staffordshire County Council, along with our colleagues at districts and boroughs across Staffordshire, are involved in the discussion around this. And the districts and boroughs work together, as you say, Alan, in the localities subgroup, which is kind of a reference of all the great things that are happening across every area of Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire, but then kind of pulled together in a thematic way at the Place subgroup. We've got a couple of different headings that we agreed that we felt represented every part of life in a way that we thought was important to cover. So that's towns and cities, infrastructure, digital, well-being, employment and housing. And at the moment we're working our way through those. We decided to start at housing, something I'm quite passionate about and interested in. And at the moment we're kind of having a discussion around pulling together the great things that are happening all across Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent, the things that we would aspire to want to do, and also accepting the challenges from our colleagues out there amongst the LEP board and also wider across the geography of Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire in terms of what we should be doing. And we're starting to evolve and innovate that discussion around those different things, whether it's sharing best practice, so from different parts of the county, things that are perhaps happening that we want to replicate elsewhere, and raising that all-important best practice for colleagues, as well as looking outside Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire, what's happening elsewhere and how we can learn from other areas, and how we can also clearly continue to make ourselves the best in class amongst local enterprise partnerships across the UK, really. So we're concentrating on housing at the moment, and we're moving on to those other areas as we move forward. But it's very much a moving picture, because we're keen to continually update things that are happening and to reflect the priority of the government along with the priorities of our partners locally.
Thanks ever so much, Abby. And we really have been getting into some of the meaty subjects. It's not been kind of pithy stuff, is it? I mean, in terms of housing, we've looked at some really chunky topics, haven't we?
Yes, I think you and I have particularly enjoyed discussions over the last few weeks about modern methods of construction, which is quite topical in a way. Obviously, the government agenda is to bring forward more houses. And as a local authority leader, this is something that I spend quite a lot of time talking about anyway. But it's really interesting to talk to colleagues across the county in terms of what their challenges are, because as a LEP, we're looking a diverse city and county area, that it's really great to understand the challenges everywhere and how we can work together to address those. And also that then links into the other subgroups, how that fits with future employment, how it fits with innovation. And I think it's quite a very dynamic discussion, really. And the members of the Place Group are an eclectic mix of individuals from universities, businesses, all different types of backgrounds. And it is a very kind of blue sky thinking type discussion in terms of where we think things are going and what we ought to be focusing on, but moving at pace. And that's one of the things that I like about the LEP. I like to move at pace.
Brilliant. And I think, again, back to the localities group, and I know it's one of the questions, but we are very careful to make sure we use place and localities to make sure we represent the entirety of the area. So every district is represented, and the conversations have been getting better and better. So we're finding real diverse opinions, aren't we, or diverse experiences across the whole patch, which is helping everybody, I think, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. I think one of the parts of evolution, in a way, for the LEP over recent years is how you bring in that diversity. Clearly from my point of view, I'm an expert at talking about Stoke-on-Trent, but it's great to hear about the other parts of the county too. And I think the way we've approached this around place, supported by a locality subgroup, means that my voice is the same weighting as colleagues from Lichfield, and we're able to have really open and interesting conversations around that, where nobody's got the right answer, but we all want to share expertise to achieve something that benefits all of us.
And I think the other thing that I would say is, in terms of the other subgroup leads, so Liz, Trevor, Hannah, they also sit on place as well, and that's how we bring all of these ideas together so that the whole thing joins up. And hopefully you'll see, coming from the LEP now, it's very much a joined up strategy. We absolutely have areas of focus where we're picking the right things to go at, but in terms of our answers, they're always well thought through, they're joined up, and what we're trying to do is make sure that any investment that happens in this area has an exponential impact. So if we make an investment in education, it impacts place, it has a benefit through innovation, it has a benefit to growing businesses. If we make an investment in a place, that's to unlock employment or housing sites, which then will feed through to the education system. So we're trying to make sure that we really do a really good job of joining it all together, making sure that wherever you put an investment, you get an exponential output as well. So did you want to run those two questions quickly?
Yeah, thanks, Alan. Thank you all of you for helping us understand the subgroups and how they operate and their priorities. That's been really helpful and insightful. We have got some questions that are starting to come through to us, so these will be interesting. There's a couple that have come through from a number of people. The first is, I guess, having heard the news over these last days, is kind of a really topical question and on a lot of people's hearts and minds, is can the LEP help to reduce the decline of town centre shopping, as many of the well-known shops are suffering and closing? And I guess that's about immediate news, but also that's been an ongoing issue for a significant period of time, our high streets and the decline in our high streets. Can the LEP impact the decline of our high streets? I'm going to throw that at Abby, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think that anyone pick who wants to have a go.
Yeah, sure. So obviously government agenda in recent years has focused on the Towns Fund, and LEP play a key part in that. I know Alan is playing an active role in our Towns Fund, as are other colleagues actually. I know that Trevor is also involved in the Towns Fund in Newcastle too, around how we do that. And I think the involvement of the LEP brings with it not just the profile of our excellent chairman, but actually the weight of all partners. We all want everywhere to succeed. So I think the involvement of the LEP is crucial in that. But we also have that invaluable lobbying role too, And Alan and I certainly spend a lot of time talking about how we lobby, whether we lobby individually, how we lobby alternately, and how we also lobby together. I think hopefully the value of the list means that we are drawing to the surface those really important areas for us to develop on and focus on, and also have solutions too, because I think that's what the government want to hear. They want to hear solutions, not just that we've all got problems.
Yeah. Anybody else want to pick up on that question about the high streets?
I think the other thing I would talk about is that, there is an evolution happening, and Hannah talked about in Growing Business about evolution, and people are having to evolve their business models now. In the current circumstances, some people can't, if you can't open the shop, it's very hard to innovate in terms of being a traditional shopkeeper. But what you are seeing now is the economy move forward very quickly in many ways in terms of the drive to digital and that kind of stuff. But again, we've talked historically, a number of years ago about, a lot of experience, a lot of the shopping experience is experiential, and people still want those experiences. They don't not want them, and it's just about how businesses can adapt to that and make sure they can provide the solutions that people are looking for.
Can I just ask Trevor a question? Trevor, Alan just talked about innovation. How are you lobbying government around innovation, and are there some positive noises coming out?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's lots of discussions going on at the moment, and people will be aware, for example, that the government issued a research and development roadmap in July, and for example, I've been on a group that's been asked to provide advice to some of the major funders of research and development, both in universities and business, which is UKRI, and that report actually came out a couple of weeks ago, and one of the recommendations, just to give you a flavour, was to actually potentially set up what they're calling innovation collaboration zones. So how within a particular regional context can we bring together business and universities or other organisations that are developing new ideas into that levelling up agenda, so that actually you're addressing both at the same time. You're maximising what the country as a whole and the regions get from the expertise they have, but actually having that broader impact on the country. So I think a lot of the noises are right, and I think there genuinely will be opportunities for us going forward, but we've got to be ready. I think one of the things the LEP has learned over the last year is that actually funding opportunities and things can come along very quickly, and having some oven-ready projects and ideas already reasonably well formulated actually means we can pounce on those as quickly as possible and increase our chances of success.
Thanks, Trevor. And it's really important that we have been building that pipeline of projects. We have been building those ideas out. There's just another question which I'd like you to answer, because I know you this is an area of specialisation for your university. Is the past of Stoke-on-Trent has been partly the dirty energy of coal mining. What options might there be in the future for green energy provision? I know that's something that we're looking at across the whole area.
Yeah, well, it's you'll know that at Keele this is big on our agenda, and we've set up our campus as a so-called smart energy network demonstrator, where the most recent big project has been around whether we can put hydrogen into the gas supply to reduce the carbon impact. And some of you might have seen on the news last night, there's a town in Scotland that's going to go over potentially to 100% hydrogen in their energy supply. So that is a unique facility that we have here, and we've got to absolutely exploit it. But again, it's an interesting example, because actually the original thinking and ideas and some of the original funding around that was actually related and came from the Stoke City deal, which is now 8 or 9 years old. So again, that collaboration came through that. So I think we've got lots of opportunities. We need to invest. We need to think about sustainable energy, transport, which I know right across the region is being given a lot of thought. The digital side inevitably has a benefit from the climate point of view, but also building into those innovative approaches to housing, to the production of energy. We've just got now the contract signed on a couple of wind turbines on a solar farm here, utilising the space we've got in the best way we can to address the agenda. So I think lots of opportunities there, and I think what we've got to make sure that we do is that we keep at the leading edge, because this is moving very, very quickly, and we can't afford to hang around planning things for 5 years, because by then what we originally thought about will have already moved on. So it's hard to keep on top of, but really quite exciting and important that we do so.
Nice. And you pick up on a point there about us wanting to be on the front on the leading edge, on the front foot, and that's something we've really tried really hard in the last year to do with the LEP, isn't it? We are much more forward thinking, much more progressive than we've ever been.
Can I ask Liz a question? Liz, we've talked about innovation in the future. What do you see the kind of core jobs in Staffs and Stoke-on-Trent in the future, and how the university is engaged in kind of aspirationally looking to the future and making sure the folk have got the skills they need for the jobs that we're going to need as we move forward?
Thank you. I think earlier we made reference to the digital technologies and the differences they're going to make, and that's going to be across all industries. Staffordshire University, we have nearly 50% of all of the students in the country that study games. And the games industry, actually, the kind of skill sets our graduates leave with, they go and work in places like health innovation. And so these skills, digital skills, are really, really important. And where the LEP have helped us, for instance, and can help local businesses, they've helped us to set up a smart zone. We can provide access to high-level technologies for local businesses and for our students, who hopefully will then stay here and set up businesses and work within our local industries. So they get developing those skills in AI, in VR, in robotics, that will be crucial as we go forward. And when we talk about digital skills, we also know we've got a really big media industry here, and we've got some of the film industry moving to Staffordshire. We're so well located that we can attract inward investment, and so the kind of digital skills that our graduates are leaving with are perfect for the industries that are developing here. And also we've received funding from the LEP to support CPD and training, so it's not just for working with our students who are now studying full time, but those from industry that need to reskill and upskill and can get access to these part time.
Thanks, Liz. And Abby, a very particular question has just come in we want to throw, if that's okay. Obviously, COVID is a significant issue for us. COVID has been negative for employment across not just the country, but our region. Particularly opportunities for young people are less. How can the LEP help them to get the first step on the jobs ladder?
Well, I think the LEP plays an invaluable role, not only around national schemes, but also local schemes. Obviously, the government have got their Kickstarter scheme, and know that the LEP is involved in various discussions around supporting that for local organisations who are leading it, but also around stimulating the involvement of local businesses in taking that up. There is always something, I think, about the independence of the voices that you hear things from. You know, I'd like to think that people listen to what I say, but I know the reality is that actually the independent voice of, for example, Alan as chair of the LEP, or other business leaders within the LEP, is actually stronger. There's real experience there, and they're able to advocate around things that has that authenticity of having delivered it themselves. So I think there's a really critical role there, actually, of independence and authenticity that promotes and supports roles, whether it's national projects like Kickstarter, or working with some of the brilliant businesses that we have within Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire, who are doing great things with apprentices, and hopefully we'll be able to carry on with that moving forward. As far as I'm concerned, more power to Alan's elbow as chairman of the LEP in terms of raising the profile of successful business people here within Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire.
And talking of successful business people, Hannah's in the studio with us. Just that same question to you, Hannah, about COVID. How's that impacted you in terms of employment, and how do you see other businesses really supporting young people as we journey forward?
I mean, it's very difficult times, isn't it, really, I think, for most businesses out there at the moment. The key is trying not to make redundancies and restructuring, and for supporting young people. I mean, my business in itself is quite a small business, so there's only 25 of us. It's very difficult in terms of, you know, trying to support the young people, but I think apprenticeships are so important. So for me, and I think Liz would probably agree with it being, you know, talking about the future workforce, I think apprenticeships are a great way for businesses to support the young people. And the Kickstart scheme, for example, that's going to be really positive, I think, for businesses. So I would encourage them to maybe look into the Kickstarter scheme to support them during these difficult times.
And I think, as a business, it's really important that as a business you reflect the society in which you trade and where your business is based. And, that is about supporting the young people, that is about creating apprenticeship opportunities, that is about engaging in the Kickstarter programme. But it's also about providing leadership and inspiration to young people, and that's why it's important to tell the story. So, you've tried lots of different things and you've been really diverse in your career. It's about making sure people can hear those stories so they can identify and inspire them. And that's why I'm more than happy to talk about mine and Richard's own business background, because those are things that can inspire other people. And that's how you get young people to, to bet on themselves and to take a chance and invest and go and have a go at creating something. Yeah. And again, there's a lot of people around, and you'll see from the speakers we've had today, there's a huge amount of talent in this area. We are not short of talent. We are not short of good leaders and good leadership. It's just about helping people make those connections, find the right people to go to so that people can be inspired and supported.
Thanks, Alan. Thank you all. We've run out of time, I'm afraid, so I need to let you go. But thank you so much, Trevor, Liz, Abby, for joining us on Zoom. We do appreciate your time. And for Hannah, for joining us in the studio, thank you so much. Thank you. So we've been joined in the studio by 5 people and had conversation together. We're now going to hear from both of our leaders of councils, initially from Abby Brown and then from Alan White of Staffordshire County Council. So shall we hear first of all from Abby and what she's got to say about Stoke-on-Trent?
And I think she's had a very swift costume and location change. Let's see what she's been up to.
This is a pre-record. Thanks, Abby.
My name's Councillor Abby Brown. I'm the leader of Stoke-on-Trent City Council, and I'm really pleased today to be here supporting the Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire LEP Vision 20 conference. I'm keen to talk about Stoke-on-Trent's vision to power up our economic growth and investment and how that delivers against the LEP's local industrial strategy, but also respond to the challenges of COVID-19. Now, many of you will know that Stoke has been for the last few years a city that's very much on the up. And I started this year determined to cement that position. However, the impact of COVID has delayed that a little, but it's certainly not dampened my enthusiasm to champion my small but mighty city. Recent milestones for us as a city include 122.6 hectares of land developed for employment in the last 5 years, and over 1 million square foot of industrial development was completed or with planning permission in 2019. Over the last 5 years, we've created more than 8,000 jobs, with job density increasing from 121,000 in 2014 to 135,000 in 2018, which exceeds the West Midlands average. And all this has been underpinned by an ambitious City Council, with over £336 million worth of capital investment into infrastructure and a record of pushing jobs and growth right across the city. In 2019, we had more than 1,000 housing unit completions, 97% on brownfield land. And at the moment, we're creating jobs in Stoke-on-Trent faster than any other city in the UK. We have, therefore, unsurprisingly, one of the fastest growing economies outside London and the South East. Despite COVID, though, we still have ambitious plans to transform our city centre, as you can see on the slide behind me, and continue to build a flourishing economy with thriving communities. Schemes that we're bringing forward as part of this include the city centre regeneration area. Now, this is one of the largest city centre regeneration areas within the West Midlands. It's a mixed development scheme that's starting to come forward right now. It also incorporates an emphasis on transport improvements, which, as you can see on the corner of the screen, include tram or light rail, because we believe that significant investment is absolutely crucial to the future of Stoke-on-Trent. And this ties in with other schemes in Stoke-on-Trent, a cross-city light railway or trams, investment into Stoke Station, and don't forget that Stoke-on-Trent will be HS2 connected very, very soon. Also, the potential of the Restoring Our Railways Fund, as well as investment into the Etruria Valley Link Road, which will reduce congestion on the A53 and A500, improve air quality and connectivity. It's a 60 million investment to open up land which will bring forward over 2,000 jobs at Etruria Valley, which is part of our Ceramic Valley Enterprise Zone. And also, the City East Link Road, which is another strategic road improvement that is desperately needed in our city. And it's wide-ranging proposals like these that form the basis of Powering Up the City, our campaign and 2-year strategic plan to restore and reignite a strong, resilient city economy for growth and jobs. Powering Up the City pulls together a number of priorities into broad themes, refreshing and reinstating investment projects that align with both the City and LEP's priorities, sustaining confidence in the residential and commercial development market, working collaboratively with stakeholders and partners to prepare for Brexit, ensuring that affected residents have skills for recovery, accelerating investment in digital infrastructure and inclusion, including our ambitious Silicon Stoke agenda, repurposing our high streets and creating town centres, and of course, continuing to lobby government with the support of the LEP so we can renew and transform our area. So what can you expect from Stoke-on-Trent moving forward? Well, of course, more of the same excitement and ambition from the small but mighty city determined to prove the world wrong. We expect to see over the next few years continued city centre growth, completion of our ambitious Potteries Museum and Art Gallery extension, the multi-storey car park at Smithfield alongside Clayworks and the 4-star Hilton Garden Inn Hotel that were completed this summer and complementing the city centre regeneration area. Continued investment across our towns, including in heritage assets and homes, plus improved connectivity, physical and digital. And that includes our ambition to create the most digitally advanced city in the UK as our full fibre 5G model is switched on, with the first homes already benefiting in Stoke-on-Trent. Also, continued pursuit of growing key projects such as the Ceramic Valley Enterprise Zone, where we've developed over the last 5 years 2.3 million square foot of land, or it's in the pipeline to come forward. We've improved the local economy by 18.55 million GVA, all achieved with the support of the LEP alongside the Make It team. During coronavirus, though, we've worked really hard to protect both communities and businesses. We've maintained a dynamic profile, with a trailblazing lateral flow, where we were the first area in the country to try this, or promoting the opening of our Hilton Hotel this summer. We've stepped up with our support for businesses and forged and strengthened new relationships to help to push our city forward. I'm unbelievably proud to be the leader of Stoke-on-Trent. And when I became leader in May last year, I said that I was excited about the challenges ahead and humbled by the faith put in me. We faced huge challenges this year, but I know that our city is stronger together. 2020 may have been disappointing, but I know 2021 will be amazing.
Thanks so much, Abby, for sharing all that. Alan, is there anything from that you want to particularly just highlight or respond to?
Well, first, want to feed off the enthusiasm that I always get from Abby. So the City Council and Abby in particular are a fantastic partner to LEP, really valuable member. They offer a lot and they really contribute. I think also it's inspiring to hear about the vision they have, that Abby and her team have for the city, and the amount of progression there's been already, but also the hunger and desire to do even more, which I think is fantastic, and we need more of that in the LEP. It's fantastic.
It is. Abby is inspirational when she talks, and her passion for the city really, really comes across, doesn't it? Let's hear from Alan White, who's the leader of Staffordshire County Council. Thanks, Alan.
Hello and welcome to the Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent Vision 20 conference, and thank you very much indeed for joining us this afternoon. You're here to find out what Staffordshire County Council can do to help you as a business. My name's Alan White, I'm the leader of Staffordshire County Council, and I run small businesses myself, and I know full well that small business is the lifeblood of any community's economy. We need you to grow and develop so that you can help us and our communities to continue the good work we're doing, getting people into work, delivering growth in the economy and helping us out. The bigger picture is that our economic growth programme won't stop because of the pandemic. There's a live pipeline of over £325 million worth of projects to generate around 10,000 jobs and 3,000 new homes being built. We're involved in 16 world-class sites that will bring new business and new investment to Staffordshire. Staffordshire is the home of JLR, Moog and other global names. Such big names have brought millions of pounds of new money into Staffordshire and benefits everybody. Through closer working with our district and borough colleagues, we'll be bringing forward these major new sites, such as the Royal Ordnance Factory in Featherstone, Chatterley Valley and other major infrastructure projects like the Staffordshire Western Access Road. We've also been a major part in supporting the LEP to bring millions of pounds of new funding and business growth projects from the government's Getting Building Fund, including accelerating the growth of I-54 in Staffordshire, which I mentioned a moment ago, and the regeneration of Shire Hall into a business hub and working with our partners to regenerate town centres, to name just a few. The Make It Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire team, which are part of the LEP, lead the work to bring big business and investment into the area, benefiting us all. Here we are illustrating what we are doing for business in Staffordshire directly. First, we're making sure that you have the skills that you need and they're available through a local pipeline of local people. Our £75 million strategic skills programme will not stop despite the economic downturn. Adult skills are improving, with over 42,000 more adults qualified to degree level or higher since 2014. We are also helping the LEP to deliver hubs, teaching next generation skills, advanced engineering and manufacturing and beyond. That, combined with our partnerships with universities and other partners to develop a workforce with digital skills. This means that you have the right people for your needs well into the future. Staffordshire is connected in all the ways you need. The County Council is at the centre of boosting our county's connectivity, including making sure that we have 97% of our residents connected to superfast broadband and submitting a 5G bid which would offer speeds for 10 to 20 gigabits per second across the county. But it doesn't stop there. We're running a campaign called Think Staffordshire First to make sure local people go to local shops and local businesses and choose them first over other suppliers so that we can continue to boost the economy locally. Despite the coronavirus pandemic, we are still massively aspirational. Our 5-year recovery and renewal plan in response to the crisis sets out our priorities. It's well worth a look at staffordshire.gov.uk. Staffordshire is a place where local partnerships, innovation and a balanced and thriving economy is key. We're a place that puts the needs of businesses at the heart of what we do because its successful businesses means successful and happy residents. Please do remember to reach out and get the support that's available to you. The Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire Growth Hub is the place to start to access all of the support available from across our partners, including Staffordshire County Council.
Alan, thank you so much. Abby and Alan, thank you for taking time to be with us and to share your inspiration and your vision with us. That's really, really appreciated. Don't forget, you can get in touch, and we're getting questions coming through. That's really helpful. We'll feed those to our guests both today and tomorrow, so keep your questions coming through. Do tweet us or use the app to get those questions through to us. That'd be great. When I said to my daughter this morning that I was going to meet a real-life dragon, she was a little bit concerned for me. But we are really excited to be able to welcome Jenny Campbell to the studio. Hi, Jenny. Great to see you.
Hello. I'll try not to breathe fire then.
Yes, I know. I think I did need to explain a little bit of the context of that comment this morning. But it is great to see you, and I am slightly in awe. Dragon's Den has been one of those programmes that has inspired and challenged, and it's been great to watch over the years and in these last few years. I think you joined in 2017, is that correct?
Yes, I did. I did my first series in 17 and second series in 18, so it was great fun.
Great. Now, Jenny, for those that don't watch Dragon's Den or don't know your story, I just wonder whether maybe in the first part of this conversation you could just tell us who Jenny Campbell is and how you end up being with us today.
Yeah, okay, so Jenny Campbell, I'm an ordinary girl from Manchester who happened to achieve some extraordinary things. I like to think through a lot of hard work, dedication, resilience will be a bit of a key theme today, and everybody needs a bit of luck as well, don't they? So I spent most of my life in a banking career, and then I managed to turn that into becoming an entrepreneur during the financial crisis, actually. And then since then, having sold my business, managed to get a seat on Dragon's Den. So entrepreneur turned angel investor.
Okay, so as an entrepreneur, what does that mean in your context? How did you become an entrepreneur? What were the steps? What luck did you kind of get at that point?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, when I was given the label entrepreneur, I always used to think I'm not really an entrepreneur. I used to think of entrepreneurs being, young girls or boys starting a technology business in their bedroom or something. But I've grown to appreciate more really the broader sense of the term entrepreneur. So my entrepreneurial journey began when I went to work at a subsidiary of the bank that I was working for nearly 30 years. I thought that was going to be a 2-year role and then back to the ivory tower, as I called it, in London. But something called the global financial crisis came along in 2008, which gave me the opportunity. Well, first of all, I was asked to try and sell the business, which I spent some time working on that. Then there was a light bulb moment when I thought, actually, I've been proud to call myself a banker all my life. But all of a sudden now, I'm not very proud to call myself a banker, let alone an RBS banker. And I love this little business that I'm working in. And why don't I and the management team think about buying it? So it was quite a sort of a startling thought at the time, but a light bulb moment. But that went, that progressed. It took about 18 months worth of negotiations and raising money, etc. But eventually we bought the business in 2010. And then, I didn't start the business, but I took a business that had been grown exponentially in its early years and was quite fundamentally broken by the time RBS bought it, and it needed a lot of reinvestment in it to repair it and scale it up. So I did all of that work and rebranded it, and then just took it to another level, both in the UK and in Europe. So I think I've probably earned my entrepreneurial badge.
I'm absolutely sure you have, Jenny, no doubt about that. Just a little bit about your background. Do you come from a family of entrepreneurs? Is that kind of your background, or?
Well, again, it wasn't something I really thought about until I got to this part of my life. But during the judging competition for Entrepreneur of the Year awards, one of the judges asked me that same question. And it just made me reflect then that although I'd come from parents who were both in professions, my father was a banker, my mother was a teacher, so I'd come from a professionals background. When I thought about it back to my grandparents and great-grandparents, they were all entrepreneurs. One of them had a printing factory, one of them had a building company. We were all local in a suburb of Manchester, and that's how it was 100 years ago. So I think that was probably always in my DNA. I was brought up to be, quite self-sufficient and independent. So I was working at a corner shop by the time I was 13, selling newspapers and sweets and closing up the shop at the end of the day and counting the money. So, by the time I went for a week's work experience at the local bank branch at 16, which was meant to be 1 week before I went to go back and do my O-levels as they were then, and then A-levels and then university, that 1 week just transformed my thinking, because I just wanted to get to work and be totally independent.
So you left school at 16, I think. You didn't do A-levels? Did you
No,
university
I didn't.
or any of those things?
I will always say to people I didn't finish education at 16. I went to work and continued education at night school. So I didn't do A-levels, but I started my banking exams straight away. That was the condition of my father letting me leave school and go to work at 16. So I started my banking exams, and those were 7 years worth of qualifications. But by the time I was 23, I'd effectively, achieved my A-levels and degree through a formal banking qualification.
So that sense of education being not just that kind of formal setting of kind of O-levels and A-levels is an important part of your story, actually. That sense of...
I believe, lifelong learning is important. Yeah. Every day is a school day, as I say, and I still keep reading my books about how other entrepreneurs have succeeded and hope to share that with others, including my 2 sons who are both entrepreneurs now and not in professions. So everything comes full cycle, and it's important to keep learning.
And then you won the award Businesswoman of the Year. I think it was in 2014, was that?
I did. That was a complete surprise to me. One, that I'd been nominated. I didn't know who had nominated me until I got to the final stages of the event. And then I found out that was actually my accountancy or corporate financial firm, Deloitte, had nominated me. And I came into the final 8, I think it was, for interviews. And even then, I didn't expect to win it at all. I was quite in awe of these other 7 ladies who were competing for the award as well. And then on the day, you know, at the big luncheon, they did all the awards, and they, you know, took the event up towards the crescendo of the Businesswoman of the Year, and they called my name, and I think it's the first time in my life that I was actually in total shock and bewilderment. And I remember walking from the table that I was at up to the stage to take the award, and I was physically shaking from the hairs on my head to my toes, and that's never ever happened to me before or since.
Was that more scary than appearing live on Dragon's Den?
It was at the time, absolutely. I wasn't so nervous on Dragon's Den, really, because when people ask me, oh, how do you feel with the cameras on you? I said, do you know, I don't really, the cameras are sort of all down one side, and the lift doors in front of you where the entrepreneurs are coming through. And I said, I just focus on those entrepreneurs coming through the door and think about what questions and conversations I'm going to have with them. And I kind of ignore the cameras and just get on with that conversation that I want to have with the entrepreneurs.
We'll come back to the entrepreneurs on Dragon's Den in just a few minutes, if that's okay. I want to go back to winning the award as Businesswoman of the Year and just ask whether that changed things for you in any way, or what that did for you in terms of your journey.
It did change things. You know, I think throughout my career and life journey, I can point to certain platforms that give you an extra step up. So whilst it's something I never predicted and didn't put myself forward for either, I realised it gave me a platform to other things. So what I mean by that is, on that day, there was a keynote speaker who actually I think comes from nearer your part of the world, Digby Jones. And he was the keynote speaker that day, and business ambassador. And as he spoke to the floor, and this is before I knew I was going to win the award, there was about 500 ladies, about 100 men in the room. And he said, look, he said, I want to do a shout out to all of you ladies in the room to do 3 things. He said, I want you to make sure you stand up for what you should stand up for and against things that are wrong. And he gave some examples of that. So he said, be brave and stand up for things that are wrong or need to be fixed, etc. And he said also, get yourself into schools talking to young girls before they choose their GCSEs, talk to them age 11, 12, 13 and tell them they can become engineers and astronauts and construction workers, etc. And the third thing is, he said, you know, get out and vote. A certain lady died for you. Whatever your politics are, get out and vote. And so I heard that and it really resonated with me. And when I won the award, I really felt that I'd been given the chance and the responsibility to do those things that he'd said and more. And that's when I started getting out more publicly and going to schools, first of all, and then on to things, you know, like this, just to, you know, share my story and perhaps help people overcome challenges and sprinkle a little bit of inspiration, perhaps.
Do you think it is harder for a businesswoman to succeed?
Don't start me.
Have we got time to answer that question?
I'm going to say no, because I truly believe, I have a phrase, and you've probably got it written there. I have a phrase, there is no such thing as glass ceilings, only sticky floors.
Yeah, I have that written
and what
down
I mean
on my
by
paperwork.
that is, I do think women are their own worst enemy sometimes for holding themselves back. So, you know, when I interviewed people in my business, if I had a male and a female come forward for a job, you know, and let's say there was a pay range on it of 40 to 50,000, for example, I would find that the man would come in the room and for his interview, and you know, I know that the man would have looked at the job specification and gone, I can do that, and he would walk in the room and he would be immediately persuading me that he's worth £50,000 as well. Whereas the lady, I also know, because I know from my own circumstances, would look at every bullet point on the job advert, and if she couldn't tick every one off, she'd say she's not ready to go for the interview. Whereas I would say, if you can do 80% of what's on that job advert, go for it, because it always needs a stretch factor. But the lady would also walk in the room, and I'm generalizing, but they would be much more amenable to being negotiated around the £40,000 mark if they could have flexibility in their role. And what I'm saying is, you just need to get over all of that and get yourself in for the interview when you can tick 80% of the boxes and go for the 50,000. And we're just not brave enough in doing that sometimes.
That's interesting. That phrase you just used is written in my notes, that there are no glass ceilings, just sticky floors. Where does that come from, Jenny? Is that a family motto, or is that your motto? Or
No, I believe I read it in a book somewhere, so someone else greater than me wrote it at some point, but it obviously stuck and I use it lots, and I think it just typifies what I think sometimes holds women back from just go for it.
yeah, absolutely.
What's the worst thing that can happen?
That sense of being held to the floor down is it's interesting.
Yeah.
Have you had to take many risks? Are you a risk taker, Jenny, in business?
So, you know, with 30 years of banking in my blood, there's always going to be a degree of, I call it risk management, because I will leap forward rather than hold myself back, but I've probably weighed all the options up first as well. But I will take those risks. I mean, you know, the biggest risk I took was buying the business out of RBS. You know, I had to raise a significant amount of finance at a time when my own personal wealth, if you like, which had accrued in RBS shares over 30 years, was worth, you know, a fraction of what it was worth before the crash. But I had to put my own financial contribution into the business, which meant raising a mortgage on my house for a business that, you know, I had to persuade my family and investors had a future, you know, at quite a difficult time as well. So that was the biggest risk I took. You know, I left a salary position. My father was saying, "What about the pension?" And you know, and that was kind of my argument back was, "Dad, I've got 32/40ths of a pension, which is more than a lot of people have." So I had that to fall back on when I was of that age. So it wasn't that I risked everything, but I certainly took some pretty bold steps to do what I wanted to do.
What do you think if somebody was to ask you, what's the biggest risk Jenny Campbell has taken? How would you answer that question?
I don't think there's any single biggest risk. I would say as my career has gone on, I've constantly taken bolder steps. You know, for example, when I realized that to progress my career, banking career, I really needed to be in London, but I had 2 children under 10. How was I going to juggle all that when we didn't live anywhere near London either? But, you know, I took that leap of going into London, doing a long commute, juggling the children, moving house, at a time in the late 90s where there was a lot of consolidation going on in the financial services industry. And there was a point during one of the takeover battles that, you know, I was seriously looking at being made redundant, having just done that whole thing of moving the family and turning our lives upside down. And I was potentially going to be made redundant. So I've stared into the face of risks, but always been determined that I would find a way through them.
Do you ever feel you've taken a risk that's not come off and not succeeded? I'm guessing I'm asking the failure question.
I think, you know, there are some things, I suppose there's some things when you look back and you think, I'd do that differently.
Okay.
But then equally, at the end of the day, I see them as learning experiences as well. You know, if nobody's died or nobody's lost their health, you know, and nobody's, you know, lost all their fortune, then, you know, we've all got a future. So, you know, I have taken risks and sometimes they've not always worked out in the right way. I've made investments on Dragon's Den that have not turned out to be what I wanted them to be. But, you know, you have to invest in 10 and hope that three are going to give you a return.
Let's just talk about Dragon's Den for a minute then. Let's talk about an investment you wish you'd invested in. What if you could go back over those series, what would be the one entrepreneur that came through you wished you'd managed to invest in that you didn't? Is there one?
Well, you know, reflection's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Because I'm always going to pick one that, you know, now we know has done well. Yeah. So even before my time, we'd all remember Reggie Sauce. You know, I think that was Peter's best investment, but I wasn't on at the time. If I go back to when I was on, there was certainly one I wanted at the time, but subsequently thought that was a close shave not to get probably. And you know, it was a drone business. I was very, very keen on this drone business. But the investor chose Peter over me, as often happens when people are wowed by brand.
Yeah.
So I didn't get the drone business. But 6 months later was when they had the issue with the security breaches at the airports. And that would have just been disastrous for that drone business. So what you want at the time, and then when you look back, what you wished you had or hadn't got are different things. I'm very happy with the investments that I came away with.
Just what has been, of the investments you came away with, what have been the most successful? What's worked really well? What are you still involved with?
So, I mean, the one that's delivered already for me and has been successful, but really because it was already, I wouldn't say because of me particularly, because I didn't have to do a lot before it achieved its own success, but Look After My Bills, which was the auto switching service, that was sold to Go Compare 10 months after Tej and I invested. So we'd really only just started work with them with a view to growing it before it was sold. And we probably didn't want to sell it for 2 or 3 years, but an offer came along that the entrepreneurs and the founders couldn't refuse. So that was sold within 10 months, and Tej and I, quite frankly, got a nice return on a fairly small investment within 10 months. So that was successful. The one I've got running at the moment that is certainly head and shoulders above any others in my stable is Didsbury Gin, which I love talking about because I love gin. So it's fun. It's fun having a product that you really like, and also working with 2 Mancunian entrepreneurs who are really fun to work with. But that's that's doing really, really well in what is quite a crowded marketplace, but still there's a marketplace that's big enough for a lot of people. And one of the things I really admire about those guys is that through the crisis this year, they did adapt and pivot their business into hand sanitizer. And, the hand sanitizer sales more than made up for the lost gin sales during that period. So, it's a very exciting business.
I did wonder whether you'd come on with a gin and tonic this afternoon, Jenny. So.
Well, it's a bit early.
Is it?
Otherwise, I might have been tempted.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. That's what I keep saying.
Yeah, that is true.
It's always gin. It's always gin time.
What image would that send
somewhere.
if I had a gin and tonic in my hand at this time of the day?
That interestingly to hear you talk about how the business had to adapt to kind of maintain and succeed and thrive through the COVID period. How important is that sense of being able to adapt and be ready to adapt and change to climate and context?
Well, it's massively important, and never have we seen that more than this year. One of my sons is in the hospitality industry, 3 restaurants in London, and came home during the first lockdown or just after the first lockdown, and for the first week had his head in his hands. But then, the resilience and the vision shines through, and he's adapted his business to do takeaway. And that's something that will continue now, even though he's opening his restaurants again. So, this year has really shown that you have to have a number of options available to pivot your business or grow other strands of business, whether or not it's developing your e-com solution or another product or getting your existing products into broader markets. So, when I expanded my business back in 2010, 12, 14, it was always about, do I do more of the same products, but in more countries, which is what we mostly did, or do I stick to the same product in the country I know, but add more services onto it? And we did a bit of that, but more of it expanding the same product into more countries.
That's interesting. We've had a question come in. I just want to ask you, Jenny. This has come from one of the people who are listening into this. They say, you mentioned resilience. Do you think that's something that can be taught, or do entrepreneurs have it naturally?
That's a bit like nature or nurture, when you're born, isn't it? And I think it starts with, it has to come from within, but I do think you're able to build that up with the right mindset and the right physical and mental well-being. And so, I think so long as you start with a little bit of true grit, and then, surround yourself with the right people at all times, positive people, do things that make you feel fit and healthy and exhilarated, you know, when I have my long days in business, I used to go to the gym at the end of the day, not necessarily to do anything very exertive. Sometimes it was just to swim up and down the pool for 20 lengths, or to do, you know, a mile or two walking on the running machine. But it's where I did my best strategic thinking. And then I came out of there with a clear plan for the next day of where we're going. So I think it's something you can nurture and grow, just like some good seedlings.
Let's just change tack slightly, if that's okay. You're passionate about mentoring young people in business. Just tell me a little bit more about that and where that comes from and how you do that.
Yeah, I mean, when I got the Businesswoman of the Year award, and I was thinking about how I gave back, and I had a lot of incoming calls at the time saying, "Can you come and talk at this luncheon or that event, etc." From all aspects, so charities, cancer charities, homeless charities. And as I thought about that, I thought, if I spread myself too thin, I achieve nothing, is what I've always been taught. So focus on what you know best and what excites you as well. And what I know best is business and finance. And what I also get a kick out of myself is I know that if I can work with a young person, and you don't need to do a lot with those young people. Sometimes it's just a chat, some words of advice, etc. And it just gives them the spark they need to go on the next part of their journey. And so I decided to concentrate my efforts in the charitable sector on young people. And I equally decided that I wanted to not only help, you know, those bright young things, because I was already doing work with Entrepreneur of the Year awards and things like that are in schools, but I wanted to help more disadvantaged young people as well. And so that's when I came to start working with Princess Trust. And, you know, I do find it very inspirational myself, and I take a lot of energy from it, walking into a room of 10 or 20 pretty disadvantaged young people who've got some very difficult home lives and upbringings, etc. But they've taken the opportunity to walk into the Princess Trust to ask for help where there is lots of help, and to, you know, listen to me and gain a bit of inspiration. And so I always say, if the young people are prepared to help themselves first and foremost, they've got to be prepared to help themselves, then I'm really very happy to give my time to help them along the next step of their journey, as is the whole of the Princess Trust fabric as well.
I think one of the key issues for the region in which we find ourselves is that kind of raising of aspirations, and that sense that we can do better and we can grow or we can develop. And particularly for young people in this particular region, aspiration can be quite low and hard. And hearing news stories, as we're currently hearing in the middle of COVID, of Arcadia and others that are going, or Debenhams maybe going, and actually we think young people around us are thinking, actually I'm already struggling to get work, and here there's other tens of thousands now losing their jobs, unemployment is growing. Young people are going to be particularly hard hit, aren't they, as a result of COVID and this particular pandemic. How can businesses help raise that aspiration? What can businesses do to help young people through this journey? It's a really tough question, sorry.
Well, no. I mean, businesses can take on entrepreneurs, they can take on apprentices. You know, I set up in my own business an apprentice scheme for entrepreneurs, and I took on 2 young people, and I showed them the business from end to end, from sales to operations to finance, and then found out where their little niche was. And they also did external learning as well of the technical skills of being an entrepreneur, finances, and so on. So I think, you know, businesses need to welcome 16, 18, 21-year-olds into their business, onto apprenticeship programs. And I think you will find that the small and medium size of businesses, you know, they are very welcoming of that. Equally, the young person, I would say all the things you mentioned then about Arcadia and so on, we can all read the news every day and feel that it's just so depressing and challenging out there. And what I would say is stop reading that stuff. Pick up a good book of someone who has succeeded. You know, look at people like Duncan Bannatyne, who a previous dragon. You know, he was selling ice creams age 30. and look what he's achieved. So, I was asked on a previous one of these sessions what books I was reading, and I showed them a whole stack of books, and I always read about other people's successful stories, where they've come from, what adversities they've had, what challenges they've had. And if you really got it in you to succeed and to not be a victim, then there is always something out there for you. Look at the growing businesses, delivery, Amazon, or the logistics. There'll always be jobs in those industries at this moment in time. E-commerce, my father would say to me, there's always good jobs for good people. And I do fundamentally believe that. You might have to try a bit harder these days to find that job, and you might have to adapt what you want to do or how much you want to be paid, etc. But the first thing is get yourself into a job. It almost doesn't matter what job, but the self-esteem of being in work is so important.
Absolutely. Earlier in the conversations before you came on, both Abby Brown and Hannah here were talking about the Kickstart programme that the LEP here is promoting, where there's funding for 16 to 24-year-olds if businesses will take them on. So we want to just push that. And if you want to know more about that, then do contact us, because it's really important to get them into work. That aspiration, at least getting a job, is the key thing. That whatever it is initially, get into work, get that sense of actually achieving and earning, and then move where you want to move. Absolutely.
I say to some people, walk onto a business park with your CV in your hand and walk into reception and say, may I leave my CV with you? Yes. May I come and do a week's work experience? But push that door open.
Absolutely. That's what I said to my daughter when she wanted to get a small job. I said, write your CV, just walk around Leek where we live and just go into every store, every shop, and put it on. Someone will ring you sometime. If they need somebody and you're on their doorstep, it'll be you they see. Push yourself forward. Absolutely.
Yes, get away from behind that screen just saying I've sent 100 CVs over email. No, walk around and hand deliver 10.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a number of other questions coming, Jenny. I'm just going to throw at you, if that's okay. What advice would you give to young entrepreneurs looking to start their own business?
Okay, another one of my pets. I admire that ambition, and entrepreneurship is alive and kicking in the UK, certainly in the last 10 years since the last financial crisis. And there's lots of support out there for you through accelerator programs, etc. However, I do feel that this burst of entrepreneurship amongst young people is, for some young people, is also what they think is a path to a flexible working style and being a millionaire by the time you're 30. And, it's like trying to be a professional footballer. It doesn't work out like that. And it's also quite a lonely and hard place, I think, being an entrepreneur when you're only 20, 22, 24. So I think, although some young people will make it through that journey, I would say a lot of young people should probably get a job first in a small and medium enterprise to learn how to become an entrepreneur. So we talked a little bit about this before. I think you'll learn more skills by being in a workplace of the right business, and try and choose that business so that you're getting experience around the whole business, not just sitting in one accounts role or one telephone role, for a whole year. But go and learn how to become an entrepreneur, even if that means you're doing 1 or 2 or 3 jobs before you become an entrepreneur yourself. And you can grow your business in your own time or at the weekends. But I would say get out into the workplace and learn some skills first.
Thank you, that's really helpful. Another question. I'm going to fire a few at you now that have come from our audience. So if you were just starting out now, what advice would you give yourself?
If I was just starting out now, what advice would I give myself? I would say, I think when I started out age 16, have I gone in the dark, by the way? I look like I'm in the dark with you.
No, you're looking good to me. But you're a dragon, so you can do what you want.
That's fine. I think, when I was 16, I didn't see the horizons much beyond my local town or my local city. But as I grew older and ventured out a bit further, I realized that the career that was bigger than I thought it was. Originally, I thought, well, maybe I'll become an area manager, maybe I'll become a regional manager. And then as I got closer to those places, I thought, well, actually, there's some big jobs in London that people do. And actually, there's some big jobs across the world. And so my horizons were quite, narrow in the early days. I don't think these days with, the internet and everything else, you are so narrow. I think you're a lot more worldly wise, the youngsters. So I like my phrases. So my other phrase is aim for the moon and you'll land in the stars. So although the moon might seem a long way away, better to be in the fast lane and aiming high, and you decide when you've gone as far as you can. Otherwise, you find that life sort of escapes you, and all of a sudden you're 35, 45, and 55, and you're getting. I say to my 40-year-olds who come to me, or my 35-year-olds, by the time you've got to 40, it's a bit difficult to accelerate things at that age. You haven't got in the fast lane fast enough. So decide where your ambitions lie, stretch them a bit, and run faster.
Talking about those kind of stretching the boundaries, a lot of your work covered, your business covered Europe. I know you pushed that kind of the cash business out across Europe. We've managed to talk for 35 minutes without mentioning Brexit. Let me just put that on the table. You've made investments abroad, including Europe. How will companies and entrepreneurs, I'll say this carefully, how will companies and entrepreneurs benefit from Brexit?
Well, there you are asking me a question when I was a Remainer, but I was only a borderline Remainer. As ever, I could see both sides of the argument.
Yep.
I was a Remainer because I was very nervous of how the transition would be managed and whether or not we had the skills and leadership to manage it. And I think that's probably been borne out. So, but at the end of the day, you and I can't really influence that. We're going to get what we're given.
Yep.
And so you just have to get on with, how the laws and the regulations land, etc. But, we operated as a country successfully before we had the union, and we will operate successfully again. So, how will we benefit? I was listening to the farmers' discussion on the on the radio yesterday, and it seems that most of the farmers are seeing enormous upsides in this once all the regulation settles down, and and providing the ministers can do the right thing in setting the parameters right for our environment, etc. So that's a massively complex question that depends on your industry and your perspective. But at the end of the day, you will be as successful as you make it.
Yeah, and we are where we are. We're not going to change that decision now, and we've got to, as business, we've got to look forward and work with that. You're absolutely right. Work with the transition, work with the regulations that are put in place, and still seek to kind of thrive and push forward and grow. Absolutely, and those that do that will make it, I guess.
Yeah, and you've got to work within the regulations that are set down. Yeah. But if some of those are not right, then you have to get into lobbying and thought leadership on changing some of those. And I'm sure a lot of these ministers won't get it right first time around, and there will be, the change will evolve.
I am sure the Brexit conversation will continue for a number of years yet for us, but we'll leave it to one side now. Another question that's come in. At the moment, the pandemic's reducing the opportunities for face-to-face work experience for young people. You talked about that kind of the need for work experience. What's your view of virtual work experience?
I think personally, we're all getting a little tired of all the virtual stuff because, we are physical people and we do want to get back into those physical workspaces. Although on another angle, back in the 90s when I was juggling kids and, a 5-day commute to London as well, I would have welcomed this period and this flexible working. So I think it has brought a new way of working, which is going to be great for mums and dads, etc. For the kids, do I think you can do a Zoom virtual working? I went past a school on want where it said virtual parents evening and virtual, sixth former tour. And I sort of went, oh, really? You do want to walk the corridors and see the gym and get a feel for the place, don't you? So, at least we can do it. We have the technology to be able to do this. We're not all locked at home and are not seeing anything. So that's a benefit, isn't it? Do I think it's a permanent way of working? No. It's a necessity right now. So better than not at all. But I think I would encourage those young people to get out and get one of those jobs that has to be done physically, whether it's the delivery driver or, a vet support assistant. They've got to touch the animals, haven't they? So get out there and get a job that you can do physically, and don't be sat in your bedrooms behind your computer screen. Not healthy, I don't think.
No, I think you're absolutely right. We're all getting a little bit Zoom tired over these last months. But I am still going to say I've met a dragon, just so you know. Even though we've only met over Zoom, that is now going to be one of my
shake your
stories.
hands.
Yeah, that's it. That's going on my CV from this point on, Jenny. You're fine. As of tomorrow, Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire go into Tier 3. That's where we head tomorrow. And there'll be a number of our businesses that can't open, hospitality in particular, and we talked about that a little bit. What's your advice for SMEs that are really struggling at the moment?
Well, I did mention hospitality before.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, at Tier 3, you can still do deliveries, can't you? So I've got 2 restaurants locally here where one's adapted to delivery, and the other one that I went into before lockdown, I said, "Oh, are you doing delivery?" And the answer was, "Oh no, we couldn't do that." And it was a very sort of negative approach. And I thought, why not? Your competitor is doing it. So again, you know, it's adapt if you can what you do. If it's something that you really cannot adapt by taking it down an e-commerce channel or something, then I would say just use that time wisely to put efficiencies into your business, to think of your strategy and vision for the future. You know, once all the wheels are turning again and we're all busy again, we'll say, I wish I had a bit more time to think about the future of the business. And now you've got that time. You know, get all your invoicing up to date, all your accounts up to date, and get ready to hit the ground running when we're all let out again.
Yeah. I guess it kind of feeds into this next question of what do you think is the future of the high streets? Because we've seen that fundamentally changed, haven't we, over these last few years? And I think certainly COVID has ramped up that loss of business or the changing face of the high street. What for you is the future of the high street in the UK?
Well, you know, I think the high streets will have a future. I hope they do, because I've got an investment in a car parking app that I did on Dragon's Den. So I need the cars to come back to the car parks and for people to start shopping, because you get parking perks with your car parking if you do some shopping. So you know, the high streets will adapt. We still want to go to town, go to the market, go for a coffee. And I still think you want to physically see some things. Do we need huge department stores of clothes, racks and racks of clothes? And do we need those? Do those department stores need to put every size and every colour of clothing and shoe there? Probably not. But you know, I think some of them had already started adapting, hadn't they, by just having a smaller shop where you could perhaps go and collect your items or see some of the items and then order it in. So, you know, if you can see the blouse in one size and one colour, and try and then order from there, then I think the smaller versions of the same physical things will be there. So we will adapt to it, and it will make the landlords be more realistic as well. Again, my hospitality son said to me, you know, 2 benefits of COVID for him have been the landlords now having some common sense over rents, and he's finally able to hire good people rather than, you know, a chef not even turn up for work. So there has been some benefits of it. So I do believe we'll see the high street blossom again. I just don't think they need to be the big expansive shops that were there before, personally, unless you create experiences for the consumer there. But we do like experiences, and we do get a little fed up of sitting at home just clicking on things and waiting for, you know, eight deliveries a day, I think. So we will get back to it, but it's got to be around, you know, creating the consumer experiences that we want.
Yes, I think there is a unique moment, isn't there, for those small businesses to really take hold in our high streets. If they've got something unique to offer.
And I think it's also made people more and more want to shop local as well, more and more.
Yes.
But then the local businesses have got to adapt even better to that. You know, I went online the other day to try and buy all my doggy treats at the local pet store. Yeah. And as soon as I got to checkout, it was a £5.95 delivery for 2 or 3 miles down the road. You know, and I can get my Waitrose delivery, you know, free if I spend more than £40. Yeah. But I couldn't get my pet delivery from the local store if I spent more than £40, and I wasn't going to pay £6 delivery. So Yeah, I didn't complete the purchase.
Well, my wife and I had a very similar conversation the other day. We tried to say, can we try and buy all of our Christmas presents within Leek where we live? Can we challenge ourselves to just use the stores that are there and shop locally for this Christmas? And that's going to be our challenge to ourselves, and we'll see whether we manage that, because we want to support that high street that's on our doorstep. We've got only just a couple of minutes left, Jenny, of our time.
Okay.
There's one question come in that I've not yet asked you. We have touched on this a little bit. Oh no, it's gone. It's a different question on my screen now. Okay, here we go. so this isn't the question I thought I was going to ask you, but here we go. It says, I work with people that struggle with mental illness. They're not naturally the business personality, but have skills that would be very useful. How do I help and support them? That's an important question.
Yeah, you know, I've met a lot of people with mental illnesses and social, social illnesses, if you want to put it that way. And I still think there are the right jobs for them. I can give examples: music, hospitality, things like that. It depends on the mental illness and what it is they thrive on versus what it is that exacerbates their mental illness. So again, the charities support this. It's about getting all people into work, whether it's in the caring professions, but every individual will be different in this case to assess what it is they do well at and what it is, as I say, just exacerbates that illness. It's about understanding those individuals and then finding those opportunities and finding people who are, when you're open with them about what the challenge is, that is not a barrier. In fact, that's something that they will embrace.
Great, thank you. Final two questions. First of all, are you considering doing any more TV work in the future?
I never say never. I never say never. They have for the first time, I think last season, had guest dragons on Dragon's Den, which they'd never done before. Because I think one of the dragons, Tuka, was off poorly for a couple of weeks, so they brought back. I'm trying to think who they brought back. Tell me who they brought back. Theo, didn't they? Theo Pathetus, didn't they? Yeah, so they're doing guest slots. So, that's always something on my horizon. I'm also, as you know, a big doggy lady. So I keep trying to play an increasing role on the Crufts programme. I'm trying to take over the presenter's slots there, I think, or something. But anything that's fun and interesting and, it feels like it's worth doing, I'll have a look at.
So watch this space. We may well see Jenny Campbell again on our TV screens fairly soon.
Oh, you may well. Well, I'm on here now, aren't I? So.
Oh, well, absolutely. You're on our TV screens right now. Final question, and we literally need just a really short answer, Jenny. If you could give one sentence, we've got a few hundred people watching this broadcast right now, all involved in business, all seeking to thrive, all seeking to grow, all seeking to develop and grow their business. If there was one piece of advice you could give them, what would it be?
Dare to dream.
That was short and sweet, and that's perfect. Jenny Campbell, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us.
Everybody
we
all the best,
appreciate
and thank
the
you
conversation.
for inviting me.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. That was Jenny Campbell. Thank you. Pre-record a video that talks all about Place Brand. The Place Brand was launched just last week. It's really exciting to hear all about the place. So if you sit back, relax, and watch about Place Brand Staffordshire.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Christian Marcucci, the Head of Communications at Staffordshire County Council. And I'm joined this afternoon by Josie Morris, the Managing Director at Woolcool, the thermal installation packaging specialist based in Stone. And we're going to talk to you today about a hugely exciting piece of work that's about building pride in Staffordshire, raising our profile regionally and nationally, and growing our economy. It's about creating a new story for Staffordshire, a compelling place brand, and an ambitious new approach to marketing this great county and all we have to offer. And we do have so much to offer here. So before we do that, what is a place brand? Well, basically, it's a tool that you need to successfully tell the story of your place. At its heart, you need a really strong narrative that captures all the key elements of your place: the location, the culture, the history, your future aspirations, and the community as well. And that needs to be supported by a toolkit of imagery and visuals that tell that story. What a place brand isn't is a logo and a strapline. It can certainly include those things, but it needs to be much, much more than that. So where's this come from, and what do we want to achieve? Basically, this is a piece of work that was commissioned by Network Staffordshire, which is coming together of public and private sector place leaders from across the county. It includes representatives and the vice chancellors from the 2 universities, council representatives, the chair of the LEP, police, fire, NHS representatives as well, who come together to discuss a range of place leadership issues and projects, one of which was place branding. And there was a real sense that Staffordshire lacked that compelling place brand. And while a number of organisations across the patch do elements of place marketing, it's not consistent enough, it's not collaborative enough, and it needs to be done better. So there were 5 kind of key areas that the network wanted to achieve. The first of them clearly being that new, clear, compelling brand itself, then supported by a really strong visual identity and a marketing plan, underpinned by an ambassadors program. So that's basically going out and finding key influencers across the county who would be the sales force for this new brand and plan, to ensure that this work then complements and connects with the place marketing that's already happening across Staffordshire, as I've already mentioned, and also to think about what infrastructure we need to put in place to ensure that this is a sustainable piece of work. This isn't a standalone campaign or a project. This needs to be a sustainable work stream moving forward that, as I say, is about raising Staffordshire's profile beyond our borders. And in terms of developing that brand, there's 5 questions really that matter. What's Staffordshire for? Who it's for? What makes this county special? And you note the word special there, not unique. Lots of areas try and talk about their USP and what makes them unique. Very few areas anywhere are particularly unique. What's more important is what makes Staffordshire special, what our ambitions are for the future, and therefore what's our story. And why is this important? Well, basically, it's about raising Staffordshire's profile and promoting our county to businesses, investors, developers, visitors, so that more people come here, invest and spend locally, and ultimately put more money in Staffordshire people's pockets. It's about raising our profile with government and strengthening our hand when we bid in for either funding or powers to do the things that we want to do here in Staffordshire. It's about competing for talent and resources in a global marketplace as well. And given the economic impact of coronavirus and the upcoming impact of Brexit, this work is now more important than ever. Why use Staffordshire? Staffordshire is a big place, very diverse, from the moorlands right down to South Staffordshire, a very, very different county. Why using the county's name is about added value and being part of a bigger story. And to give you probably an example from elsewhere, if you think about towns like Harrogate and Whitby, or a city like Leeds, they're places with really strong identities and offers. But they also benefit from being part of that incredible brand of Yorkshire as well. So that's why here we're talking about place layering, about parts of the county being part of that Staffordshire brand and quality, so that we can work together and collectively raise the bar and compete for that talent and those resources that I've already mentioned. So what do we do? Well, I was working with Network Staffordshire, commissioned one of the leading place marketing agencies in the country called Thinking Place. They've worked with a range of cities, counties, places across the UK and across the island of Ireland to develop their place stories. Notably, they've worked with both Hull and Coventry, supporting those 2 places to successfully bid in for the City of Culture, with all the associated benefits that come with that moniker. And Thinking Place have come in and worked with us initially on a huge piece of stakeholder engagement to help develop that new story. We also established a steering group who would work alongside Network Staffordshire to guide this piece of work moving forward. And that steering group consisted of representatives from our universities, from business, including Josie, who you'll be hearing from a little bit later, was a member of our steering group, representatives from the LEP and from our existing place marketing bodies like Make It Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire, and Enjoy Staffordshire as well. And Thinking Place, through the spring and over the summer, carried out a wide piece of research, immersion visits as well, which were somewhat difficult during a pandemic, but to get a real flavour of the place. Most importantly, they went out and spoke to a range of kind of key stakeholders and influencers from across the public, private sector. They spoke to groups of young people, businesses, community leaders, developers as well, and people from beyond Staffordshire too, across the Midlands. They ran a series of public workshops and also hosted an online survey to get a really good sense of people's perceptions of this county, of our opportunities, of our flaws as well. And here's what they said, and I warn you now, this is a bit of an emotional roller coaster in terms of some of the feedback that we had, but starting on the positives, some great stuff in here. People saw Staffordshire as surprising, credible potential. Great one there, saying that it's got everything a place needs, picked up on its location, the fact we are a hidden gem, and clearly have that rich industrial heritage as well. In terms of some of the challenges though, and I won't read all of this out, I'll pick out a few kind of elements, but clearly there's real disparities across the county. It's very different identities, in a sense that parts of Staffordshire are really underrated, underappreciated. We don't perform on a national stage. We seem out of date in some senses. We're a bit lost between the two second cities in the country, seen as a drive-through county, a bit second rate. And there's issues around both our county town and the city as well. This sense that we're a place between higher profile things. Also, a real sense that we're asset rich. We've got assets in Staffordshire to die for, whether it's our tourist attractions, the great outdoors, you name it. For some reason, we're perception poor. As I say, slap bang between England's two second cities, but not making the most of the potential relationships there. Seen as that pass-through county, M6 allowing at speed. Bit anonymous, bit average, it'll do. And a lack of aspiration and ambition. As a reminder, this is what key stakeholders and people in Staffordshire and around our borders were saying about us. But also saying that we just need to be bolder. We need to go for it. We need to pump up the value of what we have to offer in this fantastic place. Thinking Place also, as well as the qualitative data that they've mined from the stakeholders, are some more quantitative questions for people's perceptions of the place. And ask people, for example, is Staffordshire welcoming? Resounding yes to that one. Some real pluses on this page around value, around this being a great place to live. But the numbers around us being vibrant, around us being somewhat complacent, are key areas that we need to focus on. Onto the next page. Yes, seen as a creative place, but a real lack of confidence. Seen as a good place to visit, good place to do business, and a fantastic place to grow a family. And Thinking Place, from all the research that they've done in various places around the country, have said that it's very rare to find an area where you get scores in the 90 or plus percentile. And to have, us seen as welcoming, great value, good place to live, and a great place to grow a family, I think is a really strong base to work from. So clearly this is a very short summary of an awful lot of research, just to give you a real flavour of what people were saying about the county. So the next task for Thinking Place was to look at how do we start to change these perceptions? What do we focus on? And in our new story, there are three key themes that will be the drivers and the pillars around which all of our activity will be based. And the first of those themes picks up on those attractions, the fact that we are attraction central. Everything from the great outdoors, incredible offer around walking, cycling, mountain biking, whether that's at Cannock Chase or up at the Peak District and the moorlands. That brings with it an amazing quality of life. And in the times that we're living in at the moment, the huge benefits that has for people's mental health and well-being, having that space to breathe. And how they've encapsulated that is Staffordshire being active, adventurous and fun. The next thing they've looked at concerns the economy and everything from the Industrial Revolution and our incredible industrial heritage, right through to more modern day successes like investments at I-54, the fact that we are home to major global brands like JLR, JCB. We've got an incredible education offer, for example, the medical school and the Science and Innovation Park up at Keele, to the offer at Staffordshire University in particular around gaming. And also looking at our SMEs and startups and tech businesses, which are continuing to grow and expand in the county. And this theme has been encapsulated as Staffordshire, inspiring and applying ingenuity. And the final theme goes back and picks up on that kind of life opportunity here in the county. Back to that physical, mental well-being, the fact that we can offer incredible value for money here in Staffordshire as a place to live, that we're minutes from the great outdoors, wherever you are in the county, family friendly, great history and heritage, brilliant attractions, and good education. And this final theme is around Staffordshire, cherishing our natural livability. And these three themes are not public facing straplines or slogans. They are the pillars of our story around which all of our activity will be based. Now, sitting above those three themes is a big idea, which really talks about what Staffordshire is about, what we stand for, what we believe in, our kind of strategic signature or statement of intent. And this picks up on our location. In between becomes the heart of. It also picks up on what we have to offer here, the fact we've got the world capital of ceramics, the National Forest, the National Football Centre, our National Park, the National Brewery Centre, and the fact that we offer great value as a place to live, as a place to do business, as a place to visit. So the big idea for Staffordshire, again, picking up on a few other places here, great place to start a family, a business, great place to stop and visit, live, study, you name it. That big idea is Staffordshire, nationally valued centre of the UK. So here's our story in terms of the big idea and the themes. Nationally valued centre with active, adventurous and fun. We aspire and apply ingenuity and cherish our livability as well. Now, in terms of supporting and telling that story, we need to do it in a visual way and again, change perceptions by the images that we project of our county. So Think in Place have commissioned a range of new photography that will accompany all of our place marketing work moving forward. We'll also sit alongside existing photography that we have in abundance from our economy and from our visitor offer as well. And I'll just give you a quick flick through a number of those images. But before doing so, there were some key kind of themes that came out of the research that were really important when we commissioned that photography and that we wanted to demonstrate. In particular, the great outdoors, the nature, the greenness of Staffordshire. We want to project that confidence that's been lacking in our place marketing activity to come across as ambitious, as playful, but also attractive and centred as well. So here we go with the photography. This is about demonstrating Staffordshire's economy, our workplaces, and countering those perceptions of a lack of vibrancy, showing those modern, innovative businesses and workplaces that you maybe wouldn't associate with Staffordshire, that you'd think more of being found in the big cities around and about us. Great picture there of our hipster-looking lecture chair as well at Ridgewell, but as well our traditional industries too important. So this is this is our young farmer of the year, who's actually a tenant farmer on one of the county council's farms just outside of Stafford. Also showcasing our amazing attractions in Staffordshire, which will be familiar to many of you. And also showcasing the great outdoors, that fantastic nature offer and incredible gardens and homes that we have to visit here in the county, as well as our rich heritage and that link back to ceramics. And what you'll notice from all of these pictures is they're not just pictures of places, they're pictures of people interacting with the places and people enjoying what we have to offer here in Staffordshire. Whether it is the great outdoors, whether it's our great nightlife that we have here, and let's hope we get back to that again very soon. A wonderful canal network too, and a that kind of contribution to the quality of life that we offer here, as well as our arts. And the boutique shopping offer that we have in places such as Leek. And also finally, how we're reimagining our history and heritage as well, with the fantastic library down at Lichfield in the converted church. And so using our history and reimagining it in modern, vibrant ways. So that's a snapshot of the photography. Photography is then supported by a visual language. And this is a way of kind of bolting your story and photography together, acting as kind of the glue. And this visual language can be really flexible, so it can be quite subtle and in the background, a bit of a watermark, or quite full on and in your face. And it's been designed for a range of different partners and stakeholders to use. This isn't, for example, replacing the branding for the county council or any other organisation. This is to be used alongside when we're promoting Staffordshire as a place. And that can be used by public sector partners, it can be used by private sector partners, businesses, education institutions, you name it. And again, in terms of what that needs to project, it's about lifestyle, it's about confidence, modernity, being youthful, desirability of this county. And here it is. So as you can see, a new logo and imagery for the county, which takes its inspiration in some senses from the Staffordshire knot and the curvature of that, with a really modern, clean typeface. And this visual language is supported by a design style, use of kind of a window system that's ultimately flexible, depending on what aspect of our story that you're talking about, whether more broadly we're talking about future industries with the imagery around kind of circuit boards and R&D there in the centre. We can apply this visual language across a whole range of different mediums and for a range of different purposes. Again, this is looking at kind of industry used across print and digital. You can use it in displays. Again, picking up on just textures here, such as the mountain biking or walking in places like Canada. You use it for festivals and events and our arts and culture offer for ceramics. Again, back to that industry and economy. Also, there's that incredible offer that we have in terms of our theme parks here in Staffordshire. The football centre is mentioned, and echoes of brewing at the bottom of that display. And I think where this gets really interesting is where you start to blend the window system with the photography to showcase what Staffordshire has to offer in a really kind of modern, crisp, clean way. And the next slides, what these start to show is how potential partners could start to use it across their materials. So, for example, we've I hope the lecturer doesn't mind us pinching his website as an example of just using the curved elements of the visual language in a really subtle way at the top of the page there. Alternatively, you can draw elements of the visual language in the bottom. As I say, this is about kind of a subtle watermark approach as well, rather than being full on in your face with the visual language. So there you have it. As a reminder, that's the story. Staffordshire, nationally valued centre, place that's active, adventurous and fun, inspiring and applying ingenuity and cherishing our livability as well. And at this point, I'm going to hand over to Josie Morris from Woolcool, who'll give you the business perspective and talk through her involvement as well through the steering group.
Thanks, Christian. I didn't bring my tie with me today, so apologies. Hello everyone, I'm Josie and I'm Managing Director of Woolcall. We are based within Stone in Staffordshire. And so I've been asked to kind of just go through from a business perspective where I see the value of this brand. And if we go to the next slide, I have to say that, I'll be honest, when I first heard about this happening, I wasn't sure. I guess I was a bit skeptical and I wasn't quite sure how this would work and what it would feel like, but I was lucky enough to be involved in the steering group around this. And what I began to realise through the steering group was what an opportunity this was for Staffordshire and particularly for the business sector. I think I'm Staffordshire born and bred. I went away to Birmingham and came back from my job. And I think one of the things that really struck me about this is this isn't, you know, initially about the business community, it's about Staffordshire as a whole, of which we have some amazing businesses within the community, within the county that we should be shouting about. And I think the foundation for this branding is actually around an opportunity to build on the Staffordshire brand, but also for businesses to almost benefit from what that will bring. And I mean, the wider opportunity is for a kind of a fragmented, I think Christian touched upon this, a bit of a fragmented county to actually have an image that they, you know, each areas have their own image, but as a county, we also have an image. The amount of times I've heard when people ask me where I'm from and I say Staffordshire, I've heard the comment, oh, I've been through there on the train, or I've driven through there on the M6, or I've got stuck between 15 and 16. So generally, I see it as a really great opportunity to become a destination and to show the strength that Staffordshire has. And then also community. It kind of links to both business and Staffordshire as a whole. But I think it's quite important for every business to have their own unique identity, but also there is a strength in being part of something bigger, and particularly where you have the public, the private, and the third sector working together around that kind of image. And then I guess my bit in this is not to repeat what Christian has said, but actually to talk about the business opportunities. And I think the first and foremost thing to kind of promote here is that this isn't about Staffordshire dominating a brand or dominating a business or dominating any website. This is about it being kind of a subtle nod to the fact that we're proud to be Staffordshire based and that we're proud to be linked to such a great county with great opportunities in a great place in the country. Let's be honest, you can get anywhere within a few hours, and our links are incredible in terms of transport. And also we have a relatively low warehousing and office costs versus some of the cities. So I think there's an opportunity to promote that. And I believe the only way to do that is by getting everyone on board and people saying the same thing about the area, and you know, stopping this, oh, it's Staffordshire-based business, or it's Staffordshire, is actually moving towards, yeah, we're Staffordshire and we're proud. We've got some great pottery industry, we've got some great tech companies, and as I was saying, a really great position in the country. So I think if we move to the next slide, business is obviously intrinsically linked to the community, and I think the opportunity with this branding is to make Staffordshire more desirable. So first and foremost, businesses are driven by the people and the skill set, and it's around attracting people to the area. It's around showing people what we've got to offer as a family, as not only a place for young people, but a place for families to come to, whether that's people coming to the area that have never lived here before, whether that's people coming back to the area because they've gone away to university, or people choosing to stay here. And I think that the thing around that is then ensuring that we're keeping skill set and attracting skill set to the area, and undoubtedly that's going to have a massive benefit for businesses, because obviously, you know, the more skill set on offer that you have, the stronger your businesses are, and as I say, I think businesses are built by people, and so that's one of the benefits. And through this branding and this movement almost of Staffordshire, is to have something that we can all rally behind, and say, yes, this is what it is. And just to reiterate, this isn't about having this Staffordshire logo across all of your website or all of your kind of leaflets and things. This is around a subtle nod to it and saying, yeah, we're proud of that, and you know, this is something we are proud to be part of. And the next one is investment, whether that's from, you know, external government or wider, or even from, you know, your private investment, is looking at the area and seeing this is an area people want to be part of. This is a club we want to be involved in, and it's attracting that investment to the area. I think also almost it's a case of success breeds success. So, you know, if all of the businesses in Staffordshire are saying how great Staffordshire is, you know, and how well all these businesses are doing, and you've got a good platform there too, where we're doing individual marketing as businesses, but also a wider view. I think it's almost people want to be part of the club, and you know, it's that thing of success breeds success. And I think the more people that see the successes that are coming out of Staffordshire, the more people will see that actually this is the place to be, this is the place to invest, this is the place to build a family, this is the place to build a warehouse, or whatever. So that's the that's kind of the benefits that I see of this. And also it's quite interesting being involved in the steering group, because it allowed me to kind of, as a business, take a bit of a critical view. I had my criticisms at times, but actually see where we were going with this, and why and how a business should be involved. And I think first and foremost, the areas where, you know, I'm committed to being involved in this is to number one, maybe subtly have the branding involved on the website or on some of the leaflets or the marketing we send out, but also the rhetoric around what Staffordshire is. And Christian touched upon some of the wordings and some of the stories we're trying to tell, is making sure that when we are out and about, and whether we are in London, whether we're in Staffordshire, whether in Manchester or over abroad, is the story about Staffordshire is the same. And I think that joined up thinking again will allow the same image, when people hear about Staffordshire, they're getting the same story, which backs up, you know, what else they've heard. And so they're the two main areas that I feel that businesses can really begin to promote this. And Christian mentioned about the ambassadors, so, you know, getting on board with that. And you know, a business has a big place in the community, and I think actually in this sense, the businesses can have the most impact, because they're the ones that are talking to people outside of the county, outside of the region, and outside of the country even. And so, you know, as I say, when I first started, I was really unsure as to what this would be and how it would fit and how it would look. But having been involved and come out the other side, I can definitely see where, as a business, being involved in this could be part of something really special for Staffordshire for the future. So get involved is what I would say. So over to you now, Christian.
Thanks, Josie. And yes, I can certainly vouch for that kind of critical eye that you cast over all of our plans as we went through, but always hugely constructive as well. So thanks very much. Okay, just in terms then of wrapping up and just talking you through, so next steps around our new approach to place marketing and getting that Staffordshire story out there. This new place brand was launched at a virtual event last week on Friday, where we had over 200 influencers, business leaders, public sector leaders from across Staffordshire and across the Midlands, hearing us talking about the new Staffordshire story. We are also in the process of recruiting a place brand manager who will lead this work moving forward. That person should be in post early in the new year. They will report into a new place board that we are creating, which will consist of probably a dozen or so initially representatives from across business, from across the public sector, from across education as well, who will oversee and guide our place marketing work moving forward. Key element of that will be, as Josie mentioned again, the ambassador program, and looking for you and for other kind of key influencers and leaders from across Staffordshire to join us on that program and to help become our sales force for Staffordshire, to go out and tell that clear, consistent, compelling story about this fantastic place. And the place brand manager will be working on initially a 3-year place marketing plan, place marketing plans, too many places in there, place marketing plan for Staffordshire moving forward. In terms of how we judge the success of this, as I mentioned earlier, this is a long-term strategy. It's not a project. It's not a 6-month campaign. It's essential over time that strategies and plans across the county from a range of different organisations all speak to that Staffordshire story and this new approach that we were taking, that we see that strong cross-sector place leadership, which is about Staffordshire and not about the organisations within it, that we have a vibrant full ambassador programme with that sales force going out, talking up our county at every opportunity, and that we invest in all the things, whether it's collateral events, advertising, media, that showcase all that Staffordshire has to offer. And we also just need to keep being bold, do things differently, to not carry on doing the same old stuff. So, Staffordshire, active, adventurous and fun, inspiring and implying ingenuity, cherishing our natural livability. We are the nationally valued centre of the UK. We are Staffordshire. Thank you very much.
Josie and Christian, thank you for that, helping us to get inspired about the Place brand. Alan, as chair of the LEP, how important is the Place brand to you in the vision moving forward?
Yeah, the Place branding work that's gone on has been absolutely fantastic, and it's really important for us that we have a cohesive vision that everyone can buy into. It's almost irrelevant, the colours, the logos. You know, the most important thing is that we have a brand that everybody can buy into it and everybody can put their shoulder behind him using it. And that's the most important thing, that we have one voice and we all use it together and we use it loudly.
That's great. We've had loads of questions today that we haven't yet asked. So we have 10 minutes at the end of the day. I'm going to try and fire all the questions at you that we haven't yet asked anybody else. So
right, we'll see how we get on. Yeah, I'm ready for it.
Last time I asked, there were 13 questions still to ask. So we've got 10 minutes. You do the maths on how long you've got to talk, okay?
Yeah, we'll see how we go.
So it's your fault if we don't get through them, not mine. And now
That's fine. I'm used to being
much. Let's just get on with the questions.
I'm used to being blamed for everything.
Okay, first one. What about people who want jobs and have skills but can't get work? Maybe they've got an issue like autism or anxiety that influence their job interview, but have all the knowledge needed. What do you suggest there?
Yeah, thanks for that, Gemma. Great question. In business, obviously, we talk about diversity. Lots of people boil that down to gender or ethnic diversity, but you're absolutely right to call out neurodiversity as well. And most enlightened employees do think about neurodiversity. I know in my business we do. And you're right that it should be raised as an issue and that everybody should think about diversity in all of its forms in the same way we've been taught to think about disabilities in all their forms. Diversity should be thought of in all of its forms, and people who are neurodiverse should be given the opportunities in the same way that anyone else should do so. In the digital space, it's much easier. People who have deep thinking skills are particularly valued in the digital sector, but you're right, we should make sure there's opportunity for everybody.
Great, thanks. Another one's come in. Stoke is low on many indicators of wealth and opportunity. What's being done practically to reskill people?
Yes, I think this question relates to the multiple indices of deprivation that are often talked about for Stoke-on-Trent. I think the key point is that as a LEP, we're focused on creating the right skills for people across the whole of the area. You'll have heard today that we are deeply connected to lots of the learning institutions. We're deeply connected to the public sector infrastructure that we have here. And it's about creating those opportunities. Again, you'll hear the message today is very upbeat. It's all about being positive. And if you kind of put all that together, that's about creating the right atmosphere, the right attitude, so that all of our partners can work together to create the right opportunities for skills. To be specific about that question, we have done a lot of data. So there are over 400 data points that we pulled together as part of our local industrial strategy to help us fine-tune what's required for the economy. And our skills advisory panel, which Liz chairs, has also gone even deeper into the skills agenda. So we do have that data, and we are working with partners to try and bring some interventions to life.
Thanks, Alan. We've talked about COVID a little bit through this day at different points, and we've talked about how COVID's impacted business. Here's a very specific question. COVID has been negative for employment, particularly opportunities for young people. How can the LEP help them to get their first step on the jobs ladder?
Yeah, so It's absolutely true that that young people in the 16 to 24 age group are typically twice as impacted by the negative impacts of COVID as they are in any recession. From a LEP perspective, it's about making sure we land the national schemes really well around here. So we work very closely with DWP, with the rest of our partners to make sure that the Kickstart scheme lands well here. We've worked with the Chamber to make sure there's a lot of employers coming forward who can take apprentices. So it's absolutely about doing that. It's also about creating, as Liz said, it's about having a focus on satisfying work, because not everybody knows what they want to do at that age, but they're picking things that they enjoy, and that we're creating a pipeline of opportunity for people. So from a learning perspective, they can find education pathways that get them to where they need to be.
Okay, let's stay with the issue of skills. What intent is there to build on the world-class potential for digital services to match the output and digital skills from Staffordshire University?
Yeah, so for those who know me, my business background is in digital, and I'm very passionate about it, as is the rest of the LEP board. We are absolutely focused on the economy of the future and about how we transition to get there. There's lots of opportunities, so we're working really hard on pulling together a bid around 5G and how we can embed technology into everything we do around the area, and we can start to get growth from the 5G sector. A lot of the projects we funded through the Getting Building Fund are focused on embedding digital, and two that come to mind will be the gaming hub that we're looking at in Spodeworks, and also the Health Innovation Centre that's in Stafford, that Staffordshire University have built, which is around using digital in healthcare, for example.
That's amazing. Just staying again with the issue of young people, you talked about the 16 to 24s in that last response. Has there been any research done into what children and young people living in Staffordshire want in terms of opportunities? That's come from Lucy.
Yeah, so thanks for that question, Lucy. So again, as part of our Skills Advisory Panel, we've run an in-depth set of research to understand that, and also it's about matching the job opportunities that are available here as well. And the real answer is, what do people want, and and guiding them to things that are things that can happen here, but then also looking at the business outlook and how we can shape the business outlook to make sure that they're creating opportunities for people as well. So it's a two-sided question, and we've done a lot of work through our data and also through the SAP to get both halves of the answer.
Okay. Here's a very, very specific question, Alan. Should the Potteries be a World Heritage Site? Would this help with getting the city and wider area better known and increase funding for development?
Absolutely no idea. So I don't know I don't know how hard it is to get something registered as a World Heritage Site. I'm not sure what the benefits are. More than happy that we go and look at it and understand. If this is something that will take 20 years worth of paperwork and we get a marginal benefit, then possibly not. If it's a reasonable amount of paperwork and it raises profile and it gets benefit, then probably that's something we'll look at doing. But we'll go and look at that. Thanks for the idea.
I always think the Potteries is a World Heritage Site anyway, whether it's named it or not. But there we go.
It's certainly world leading and one of the best places in the world to be.
Absolutely. We're seeing more tenders being awarded to companies out of the area. Are there any plans to support local businesses more to steer and guide on this?
So that's come from an anonymous person, but you may have been reading our board minutes for the last LEP board meeting. So we are focused very much on social value and how, as a LEP, we can make sure that the funds that we have access to, that we defray in this area, have an impact. We've now got a social value policy, and we're looking at how we bring that into life to make it actionable and how it's actioned locally around here. But absolutely, that's what we intend. I think the key thing is that when you're buying things and you're buying things on behalf of the public sector, we still need to buy the best. We need to buy the best at the best price. So just because you're local, we won't buy local if it's not as good as buying anything else. So we still need to buy the best, but we would prefer to buy the best locally. That's absolutely where I think everybody would want us to be.
We're going to keep going. We've got a few more questions.
Cool.
And these are quick fire, and you're doing really well answering these really quickly. We've talked about Brexit a couple of times, but one question's come in saying, please outline the benefits of Brexit for Stoke and Staffordshire.
And I think Jenny touched on this. So wherever your personal politics are, Brexit is all about identifying the market opportunities globally now. It's about becoming export and investment focused and understanding how you can trade internationally. And obviously there will be change. COVID has created change. Change creates opportunity. It's about being dynamic and spotting the opportunity.
Thanks. One question came in about whether our focus will be on anything outside of Stoke and North Staff. The suggestion was, I guess, today perhaps have been a bit skewed to the north.
So we are the partnership for the whole of Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire. As we talked about earlier, our localities group is focused on every single area. So we have 18 seats on the board table, one each for the city, one each for the county, and then 4 for each of the districts. And the districts alternate, so how we get all 8 represented. So we absolutely represent the whole thing, and we represent the whole area. And I can assure you that we talk about every single locality. And in my conversations, I speak to every chief exec and every leader across the area as well to make sure the LEP is being influenced and is reflecting the needs of the entire patch.
Okay, we're going to carry on with this bit of conversation if that's okay. I reckon we may just go over 2:30, but we want to get through these questions that have come into us. So we'll keep going at this speed and see where we get to. Another question that's coming is, are there any plans to assist Staffordshire's deprived areas with targeted, accessible business startup support to help move from jobless to business creation?
So I think, again, deprivation occurs across the whole of England. It doesn't, you may see it more concentrated in particular areas, but it occurs across everywhere. And even in some of our wealthier districts, they still want to have small pockets of deprivation. So those issues are typically horizontal in nature, rather than just specifically around a particular geography. We do have interventions we're working on. We are looking at business startups. We do think that that is a real good opportunity to come out of the crisis, that we can create more businesses. Typically business in Staffordshire, we have a smaller number of startups than other areas typically, but our businesses are more likely to survive, and we have a higher survival rate once you get into multiple years old. So typically I think that means our people are quite cautious, but when they start a business, they do well, they stick with it, and it does well. So yes, we are thinking about it.
Okay. In the light of the pandemic and virtual working, do you think the new T-level standards should drop the requirement for placements in a physical workplace?
Again, not an expert in the education space and even less of an expert in T-levels. Absolutely no idea. More than happy to take that back and work with the team to understand what we think is right. If it makes sense, I'm sure we'll try and advocate for it, but I have no idea what's the right answer.
So if people have got questions after this kind of session, how do they kind of get those questions to you in the LEP? How does that happen?
Yeah, so we're on every kind of social media channel you'd look for. So you can either hit me up at Alan Rogers, spelled ALUNROGERS, or you can hit up the LEP at Stoke Staff Slep. And, if you know somebody, go through them. But, all routes will get to us eventually, and everybody's prepared and wants to help you.
That's great. A couple more questions as we begin to conclude. What about the abundance of the fibre optic trunk networks passing through Staffordshire and having the absolute best data centre potential in Europe?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. This is a really good location. We are centrally located. My other favourite little fact I heard the other day, this is one of the only places in Britain, or the only place on the west coast of Britain, where you can leave Stoke-on-Trent and drive in any direction and get to the other end of the country without burning up your taco as a lorry driver. That's how good our geography is. We absolutely understand the opportunity around digital. Again, my business background is coming through there. But we are also looking at building up a 5G program to look at how we can leverage the fibre that's in the ground that's been put in Stoke-on-Trent with VX Fibre, and how we can leverage that and take that across the rest of the county so that we can have the best connected county in Britain.
Someone sent in a question that says, interested to hear an interest in MMC. Is this in developing homes and or manufacture of these units locally?
So this comes from a conversation, or I'm not sure, but Abby and I were talking about this recently, and neither of us are experts in this space, but we're talking our localities and place group about housing. We think that there are some particular opportunities around MMC. So one is about personalisation of housing units, so people can get something that's what they want. We think modernising the construction sector may be really helpful and help us to create a focus around high-value jobs here. And then also around particular types of MMC, there are particular energy benefits, so less energy consumption and that kind of stuff. So those are the angles we're looking at. If someone's got better angles or think any of those are red herrings, then please feel free to let me know. But that's what we're looking at, and we're working on it.
Final question from our kind of audience, and I'm guessing this may be linked to the place agenda. I'm not sure, but it's have the visuals been focus group tested with audiences? What was the response?
So these questions are always interesting. This will be from somebody who either loves the new branding or somebody who hates the new branding.
Absolutely.
Again,
Let's say they love it. Let's say they love it.
Well, I've got experience in marketing. The answer is you can't please everybody all of the time. The most important thing is that you have a really strong brand that everybody can get behind, whether they feel it, it's what it look, whether they feel they like the pictures or the swirls or whatever or not. The actual answer is that yes, they were tested with audiences. The actual answer is we did hire a brand specialist who worked for several months to build the story, build an audience, and then it was tested with people, and it was positively received because that's why we went with what we went with. But if that was from somebody who doesn't like it, okay, fair enough. But the reality is you can't please everyone all the time. You've got to go with a strong brand that everybody gets behind. It's the fact we have one is more important as to whether you like the swirls or not.
Thanks, Alan. I think we've tried to answer every question that's come into us today. So that's really helpful. Thank you for all your answers. Thank you for being willing to answer really quickly because we wanted to try and get through a lot of questions. We recognise there's a lot more behind all of those answers and you could have spent a lot longer kind of unpacking those for us. But
well, also to thank everybody who's taken the time to ask questions and for the thought that went into them. So thank you.
Just as we begin to conclude today, is there one thing, as people begin to kind of switch off their computers or move on to another piece of work, is there one thing you want folk to carry with them from this day that we've shared together so far?
Well, hoping that they can pick up some of the enthusiasm and passion that I'm infected with every day working the LEP. I'm hoping that they can see that we've got a really good team of people thinking about the right things for this area, and we're pulling together the right plans. You can hear that our messages are getting better. We're thinking about how to lobby about the right things. We're making sure we're reflecting the needs of the area and the residents, but also then some of the other inspirational stories that come through the day. So again, Jenny Campbell's presentation, her conversation with you was excellent. I thought that was really inspiring. And again, right through to the branding thing, we are being bold, we're setting a vision and we're getting on with it. I think that's really important. So be bold, get on with it, I think would be my phrase for today.
I think the key phrase for me is, the key word for me is partnership. It's all about kind of building good partnerships, creating good relationships across, and knowing that there's someone there that can help you and support you and be with you and be there for you, I think is really important. We'll pick up on a lot more of that tomorrow as we continue. We've reached the end of today. We hope you've been inspired through all that's happened, and we look forward to sharing with you tomorrow at 12 o'clock. Do join us then. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day.